Chapter 701. Too arrogant. Does he think that he can sweep away all the geniuses of true spirit continent by himself? Many geniuses were indignant. Don't worry. Although West Ocean Sword Master is strong, our continent has many peak geniuses as well. The top 5 of the masters ranking. Which one of them isn't independent? Right? Yin Feng Feng is ranked 5th, her speed unparalleled. Bai Wuxiwei is a veteran young tyrant, steady like a mountain. Dan Tai Mingyue's movement is marvelous, stunning and nimble, while Duguju's blade art is tyrannical and invincible. Apart from these 4, our continent also has Swordmaster Yichun. After a year, I wonder what level Yichun has reached. He's definitely stronger than before. As for how much stronger, it's hard to say. Let's wait and see. On the 18th of September, we'll know. The crowd discussed spiritedly, their emotions stirring. Yichun, my intuition tells me that this West Ocean Sword Master is truly extraordinary. You can't be careless when the time comes. Hai Weia warned Yichun. Yichun said, "Don't worry, I won't look down on anyone, nor will I overestimate anyone. In a battle, we'll know who's stronger." Hee, my warning is unnecessary. You're much calmer than me. Hai Weia smiled. White Cloud Restaurant was only the first location of the gathering. After drinking, the group of 20 people left Lotus City and flew northwest. This gathering was not just for drinking. How long could one drink last? Usually, this kind of gathering would be held for half a month or even a month. Everybody would get together to get acquainted and talk about their recent situation. After a long time, their feelings would fade, and they would eventually become ordinary friends or even strangers. One had to know how long the path of martial arts was. It would be too sad to not have friends who could support each other. The path of martial arts was not about destroying one's feelings, but about keeping them inside. Friends who were worth making were true friends, and friends who were not worth making would be forgotten. There were many places of interest in the Tianwu domain. Along the way, Yichun saw many youths traveling in groups. When they were in the mood, they would find an empty space to drink and chat. Then, they would exchange moves with each other. They were not aiming for victory, just to test their martial arts and experience. This is the Meteorite Mountain Range. 10,000 years ago, a group of meteorites smashed into this place and formed it. Because all the vitality in this place was scattered by the shockwave, the underground rivers were also filled up, causing this place to be barren and devoid of demonic beasts. However, deep underground, a type of hard meteorite crystal can often be found. This crystal is a top-notch material for forging treasures. Yin Feng Feng pointed at a desolate mountain range and explained. Yichun and Murong Qingcheng looked over. Murong Qingcheng didn't feel anything, but Yichun inwardly clicked his tongue. There were countless craters in this meteorite mountain range. The smallest one was dozens of li in diameter, and the biggest one was thousands of li in diameter. It was like an astonishingly huge iron pot buried in the ground. The bottom of the crater was hundreds of li above the ground, and ordinary martial artists would not be able to climb out if they fell in. Yichun was shocked because he came from another world. Even the smallest meteorite here could cover the earth in dust and kill most of the living beings. Only the true spirit continent, which was countless times larger than the earth, could easily withstand the impact of meteorites. Of course, one couldn't directly estimate the size of the meteorite from the size of the crater, because the meteorite falling at high speed would have an impact. The crater was dozens of li in diameter, while the meteorite was a few li in size. That several thousand li wide crater was probably made by 100 li wide meteorite. After passing through the meteorite mountain range, everyone arrived at a huge canyon. This canyon was called Emperor Canyon. It was 99,000 li long, and its widest part reached 1,000 li. It divided the surrounding 100,000 li into 2 parts. It was a ghastly crack. Flying in the sky and looking down, it was easy to be scared silly. After all, anyone who saw such a crack would suspect whether it was connected to hell or not. They would be afraid that they would be sucked in and never see the light of day again. The reason why the Emperor Canyon was named Emperor was because there was an Emperor Scar stele in the depths of the Emperor Canyon. It was said that only titled monarchs could leave their mark on the Emperor's Scar steel. Peak monarchs couldn't even leave a single mark. No one has been able to leave a mark on the steel for several tens of thousands of years. Yin Fengfeng said. Yichen doubtfully said, Su King is a titled monarch, but even he couldn't leave a mark. Hai Wuya said, the ancient era's standard is different from the present. With Su King's strength, he could only be considered a peak monarch, not a titled monarch. So that's how it is. Yichen faintly nodded. Let's go and take a look. Yin Fengfeng's speed gradually increased as she rushed toward the depths of Emperor Canyon. The others followed closely behind. Roughly an hour later, everyone arrived at the center of Emperor Canyon. Let's go down. Without the slightest hesitation, Yin Fengfeng's figure shot into the canyon. Yi Chun, Murong Qingcheng, and Hai Wuya also didn't hesitate. The others exchanged glances and pondered for a moment before clenching their teeth and chasing after them. It was as if there was something in the depths of the canyon that made them afraid. The middle part of the Monarch Canyon was the widest. It had a circumference of over 1,000 li. There was no sign of life in this area, nor were there any miscellaneous items. There was only a stone tablet at the center. The stone tablet was 99 li tall and 9 li wide. There were many marks on it. There were saber marks, sword marks, palm marks, fist marks, finger marks, and even claw marks. They were arranged in order from top to bottom. There were no marks left on the stone tablet from the middle to the bottom. It was a piece of blank space. 100 li away, everyone stopped and slowly descended. It wasn't that they didn't want to approach, but that they couldn't. Emperor Scar, steel wasn't an ordinary steel. The aura it emitted made their Zhen Yuan, blood, and even heartbeats go berserk. They could be killed by this aura at any moment. Yin Fengfeng said solemnly, Emperor Scar steel itself is a miraculous item. The people who left their marks on it were all titled monarchs. Although no one has been able to leave a mark on the steel in the past several tens of thousands of years, the remnant aura is still not something ordinary people can endure. We usually call this aura Emperor Qi, the aura of titled monarchs. Emperor Qi, Yi Chen muttered. Yin Fengfeng turned her head and said to the disciples of Mysterious Sect and Sky Ocean Sect, you guys stay here. Don't get too close. After saying these words, she turned to Yi Chun and the rest. We can walk forward a bit and see a bit more clearly. The marks on the steel are uncanny workmanship. Even the shallowest mark represents an astonishing accomplishment containing the laws of heaven and earth. Ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts naturally couldn't enter within 100 li. However, Yin Fengfeng, Hai Wuya, Yi Chun, and Murong Qingchun were all masters. They could approach a bit closer without any problems. Moreover, beyond 100 li, they truly couldn't see too clearly. The Emperor Qi restricted one's perception and eyesight, concealing the truth. All right, Yi Chun was extremely interested in Emperor Scar steel. He could feel countless strands of frightening will on it. There were sword intent, blade intent, fist intent, and so on. Each strand made him feel extremely shocked. Compared to the will on the steel, Yi Chen's destruction sword intent wasn't even worth mentioning. It was like comparing a firefly to the bright moon. 90 li, 80 li, at 75 li, Hai Wuya bitterly smiled. He couldn't hold on any longer. Yin Fengfeng and the other two continued forward. 70 li, 60 li, Murong Qingcheng stopped, and Yin Fengfeng's complexion was also somewhat pale. Let's do it here. Yi Chen's expression was calm. The Emperor Qi 60 li away was equivalent to a peak 5th step sword intent. Although it was fierce, Yi Chen had a 5th step destruction sword intent, which was equivalent to an ordinary 6th step sword intent. Therefore, he wasn't affected much. However, he still had to take care of Murong Qingcheng and Yin Fengfeng. Yin Fengfeng glanced at Yi Chen in admiration and said, the Emperor Qi emitted by the steel contains different wills. Be careful of the most offensive sword intent and blade intent. I know. Yi Chen had just suffered a strand of Emperor Qi containing sword intent. It was unknown how many years this strand of sword intent had existed for, but it was still incomparably sharp. Raising his eyes, Yi-Chen saw the first mark at the top. It was a fist imprint, square-shaped, as if a jade seal had been stamped on it. The fist imprint was extremely deep. However, due to the passage of time, the Emperor Qi emitted from it was somewhat weak. However, compared to the marks below, the Emperor Qi emitted from this fist imprint was the most boundless, as if an emperor was overlooking the heaven and earth. Yin Fengfeng introduced, the first fist imprint was left behind by the first titled monarch of the ancient era. This monarch was called Ancient Emperor. According to historical records, this fist imprint should have been created by Ancient Emperor's four-way emperor fist, which is one of the most famous peak profound martial skills. Shifting their gazes downward, the three saw the second mark. This was a claw mark. An ordinary claw mark naturally wouldn't enter the three's eyes. However, this claw mark made the three's hair stand on end. It was as if this claw had not clawed at the steel, but a piece of land, a mountain, a river, a planet. Anything under this claw would shatter. Moreover, this claw mark was actually emitting a demonic will, instilling great fear in people's hearts. This is the second titled monarch after Ancient Emperor, Heaven-Abandoning Emperor. Heaven-Abandoning Emperor walked the demonic Tao, and was also one of the three great demonic Tao kings in human history. At his peak, he left this world for the starry sky and disappeared without a trace. Since then, he has never been seen again. Hearing Yin Fengfeng's words, coupled with her own demonic will, an illusion appeared before Murong Qingqing's eyes. It was as if she was seeing a figure on the Emperor Scar steel. This figure was boundlessly tall, reaching the starry sky and stepping on the earth. Its shadow enveloped the world, and with a wave of its palm, mountains and rivers were destroyed and planets exploded. What a powerful figure! Shaking her head, Murong Qingqing sobered up. She knew that this was not as simple as an illusion. Through Yin Fengfeng's narration, she had a preliminary impression of this figure. Then, heaven-abandoning emperor's qi surged over and combined with the impression in her mind, giving rise to a mysterious reaction. The eight-sword mark is an anomaly. He doesn't have the strength of a titled monarch, but he has the means to leave a mark on the steel. His title is Sword King. Yin Fengfeng glanced at Yi-Chen. He is the Sword King. Yi-Chen muttered, under the heavens, in human history, there had only been one Sword King, and that was the Ancient Sword King. The reason why Battle King didn't dare to call himself Sword King was because he believed that he hadn't reached the level of the Ancient Sword King. Unexpectedly, this Sword King was even more powerful than he had imagined. He was unexpectedly able to leave a sword mark on the steel with the identity of a king. Although this sword mark was very shallow, the aura it emitted was not weak at all. Chapter 702. Sword King's comprehension of profound sword arts is insufficient, but his sword will is not the slightest bit inferior to titled monarchs, even slightly surpassing them. I think this should be the key to his fame being passed down through the ages and leaving sword scars on Emperor Scar steel. Although there weren't many records regarding Sword King, there were still some. Therefore, Yin Fengfeng knew quite a bit. And Yi-Chen faintly nodded. The sword scars are shallow, which means that the attack power is not high enough. If the aura is not weak, it means that the sword intent is strong. Sword intent could amplify one's attack power, but there was a limit. Sword King's sword moves containing sword intent were clearly weaker than titled monarchs. However, his sword intent was at the forefront. Continuing down, shocking scars imprinted themselves in the eyes of the three. Some of these scars were strange and bizarre, such as forks, triangles, prisms, big and small dots, intersecting scars, and yin and yang fish scars. It was unknown what profound martial skills these titled monarchs used. The 398th mark was 70,000 years ago. The most famous titled monarch was called For Extreme Emperor. He was proficient in space profound and was famous for his finger arts. At the Sea of Soul Realm, he created a low-grade profound martial skill, Void-Shattering Finger. Its might far surpasses mid-grade profound martial skills. The Void-Shattering Finger has a total of 4 styles, each representing an application of the space profound. The fourth finger's might is the greatest, almost comparable to high-grade profound martial skills. As she spoke, Yin Fengfeng glanced at Yi Chun with an odd expression. She had seen Yi Chun use a space profound finger art before. Of course, there were many people who knew space profound throughout the ages. However, For Extreme Emperor was relatively close to the modern era, so his void-shattering finger had some descriptions. The finger art Yi Chan used was very similar to the third style of For Extreme Emperor's void-shattering finger. Only the Jinyuan color was different. Apart from this, Xiao Hozuan's void-shattering finger should also be the second style of For Extreme Emperor's void-shattering finger. Void-shattering finger. Yi Chen's expression flickered. He had found a third style of the void-shattering finger in the Goat Head Mountain in the South Rudra region's 100,000 mountain range. At the same time, he had also found a white key with the words Emperor's Tomb, Aries constellation written on it. Could it be that the Emperor's Tomb was the tomb of the For Extreme Emperor, and the white key was the key to open it? For Extreme Emperor has 4 subordinates, all of whom are life and death kings, and also demonic beasts. They are Azure Wolf King, White Sheep King, Firebird King, and Sky Scorpio King. Azure Wolf King represents Wolf Constellation, White Sheep King represents Aries Constellation, and Firebird King and Sky Scorpio King represent Firebird Constellation and Scorpio King respectively. For Extreme Emperor imparted each of them a void-shattering finger, allowing them to comprehend the space profound. Aries King, Aries Constellation? Yi Chun understood everything. The void-shattering finger that he cultivated was indeed created by the For Extreme's sovereign, and the For Extreme's sovereign had taught the third style of the void-shattering finger to the Aries King. That was why the white key had the words Aries Constellation. Yin Fengfeng continued. For Extreme Emperor was the same as the heaven-abandoning Emperor. He also entered the starry sky, disappearing for 100 years before returning. However, when he returned, he had suffered an incurable injury, as if he had encountered something frightening in the starry sky. Sensing that his life was at its end, the For Extreme Emperor built his own tomb in a forbidden region. This tomb contained countless arrays and the heaven-shaking power that the For Extreme Emperor had unleashed before his death. Even life and death kings would have a slim chance of survival if they tried to force their way in. Later on, his 4 subordinates also died one after another. They were subordinates of the For Extreme Emperor, and after death, they wished to accompany him. They built 4 tombs in the surroundings of the For Extreme Emperor's tomb. Opening these 4 tombs required a special key. Since these 4 tombs were connected to the For Extreme Emperor's tomb, life and death kings would have a hard time barging in. After so many years, has anyone found the location of the For Extreme Emperor's tomb? Yi Chen suddenly asked. The For Extreme Emperor's tomb was undoubtedly the tomb of the For Extreme Emperor. Yin Fengfeng shook her head. I'm not sure. The tomb of the For Extreme Emperor was built in a moving, forbidden region. Even life and death kings would have a hard time finding it. And even if they found it, without the key, they might not be able to open the tomb. The location of the tomb has always been a hot topic, but I've never heard of anyone finding it or entering it. Even if they did, they probably wouldn't spread the news. That's true. Yi Chun faintly nodded. His soul power entered his storage ring. On a bookshelf in the corner, a huge white key was quietly placed there. The For Extreme Emperor was an extremely famous titled monarch. Even life and death kings covet his space, profound martial skill. I'm afraid that once it appears, it will cause a reign of terror. Even Su King and my master will have to make a move. Yin Fengfeng continued. That's for sure. At the Sea of Soul Realm, the comprehension of profounds depended on the quality, not the quantity. It was impossible to comprehend too many profounds at the same time. Having a few was already good enough. However, at the life and death realm, one could enter the state of being one with the heavens at any time, and their comprehension ability would increase by countless folds. Comprehending profounds would be extremely fast. As a result, the demand for profounds would increase by a lot. After all, different profounds would have different effects and might. Apart from main profounds, how could a few profounds be enough? Space profound was one of the strongest profounds, and was related to many profounds. As long as one could obtain a space profound martial skill, it would be of great help. Of course, the grade of void-shattering finger was a bit low, and life and death kings might not be too enthusiastic about it. It would be best if one had it, but it wouldn't matter if one didn't. What life and death kings truly cared about were mid-grade space profound martial skills, or even high-grade ones. After all, void-shattering finger was only a low-grade profound martial skill, but it might already surpassed mid-grade profound martial skills. In that case, high-grade space profound martial skills would at least be equivalent to peak-grade profound martial skills. My current strength is still far from enough. For extreme Emperor space, profound martial skill has already become a legend. I can only look up to it from afar. Above mid-grade profound sense martial skills were high-grade profound sense martial skills, peak-grade profound sense martial skills, and above that would be the heavenly Tao law. Above Sea of Soul realm were half-step kings, ordinary life and death kings, peak kings, and title monarchs. Each rank was like a huge chasm. Without the will and determination to break through everything, one would not be able to cross it. For Extreme Emperor already stood at the peak of this world, while Yi Chun was at most a youngster who had just grown up. The gap between the two was too great. Gazing at the finger hole left behind by For Extreme Emperor, Yi Chun felt as if he was looking at a giant looking down at him with cold eyes. After For Extreme Emperor, only 13 title monarchs remained. It could be seen that as the modern era got closer and closer, the gap between the monarchs who left their marks was getting longer and longer. From the ancient era to the early medieval era, there would be one every 1,000 years. From the medieval era to the early near ancient era, there would be one every 1,500 years. From a near ancient era, there would be one every several thousand years. For some unknown reason, the number of title monarchs kept decreasing. In the modern era, there weren't even any true title monarchs, because only those who left their marks on the Emperor's Scar Steel could be considered as true title monarchs. The last title monarch was a world-shaking genius. Before him, there hadn't been a titled monarch who could leave his mark on the steel for 10,000 years. Until he appeared, his title was Yuan Emperor. Yuan Emperor had an innate body and boundless Zhen Yuan. While Yin Fengfeng was explaining Yuan Emperor in a valley far away, a great battle was taking place. The two sides were none other than Master Sky Sword and West Ocean Sword Master, Lu Wujian. Master Sky Sword, seems like my master overestimated your strength. There's no need for me to make a move. He could defeat you. While fighting Master Sky Sword, Lu Wujian still had the strength to speak. It's only the beginning. Master Sky Sword's voice was somewhat hurried. Sky Sword style White Flood Dragon. As he spoke, Master Sky Sword's long sword slashed, and a white silk-like sword chi tore through the air. The sword chi stretched and stretched, bending and straightening like a nimble white flood dragon, piercing through the void. It was as fast as a flickering light, unable to be captured by the naked eye. Wave Cleaver. Facing this sword, Lu Wujian's figure flickered a few times. His entire being seemed to shift through the void as he chopped off the white flood dragon's sword chi's head. Sure enough, it's his style. Master Sky, Sword's brows furrowed. In truth, when he defeated Lu Wujian's master, it was only a narrow victory. The latter's clean and efficient style had left a deep impression on him. Lu Wujian's style was very similar to his master's. Of course, it didn't mean that Lu Wujian was walking the same path as his master. It could only be said that the styles of the West Ocean were more or less the same. Different living environments naturally led to different philosophies. Sky Sword style, Sky Cleaver. Seeing that his first strike had no effect, Master Sky Sword attacked once again. This sword strike was very similar to Lu Wujian's Wave Cleaver, clean and efficient. Haha. Is this the move that you created based on my master? Unfortunately, even my master isn't my opponent. How could you be? Lu Wujian soared into the sky and fiercely stabbed out with his longsword. Rings of chi revolved around the longsword, instantly piercing through Master Sky Sword chi. So fast, Master Sky's sword was gobsmacked. His Sky Sword style Sky Cleaving was a speed-type sword that didn't have the slightest variation. All it had was an indomitable will that burst forth with astonishing potential. However, Lu Wujian's sword speed was even faster than his, as if this kind of sword speed was nothing special to him. Sky Sword style, Sword Array. Finally, Master Sky Sword took out his strongest move. 18 true Yuan long swords flew out of his body. With a shake of the long sword in his hand, the 18 long swords revolved around the long sword in his hand, rapidly forming a sword array. As soon as the sword array was formed, its aura immediately soared. Astonishing sword chi pierced through the sky, raising the valley to the ground. The grass and trees were also startled, uprooting from the ground like small swords. Go! Slashing the long sword in his hand, Master Sky Sword roared. Immediately, the sword array flew toward Lu Wujian. Sword array, interesting. However, this is far from enough. Master Sky Sword, take my self-created move, shifting ocean's sword chi. Lu Wujian held the long sword with both hands, slashing it from bottom to top. As if moving an ocean, a majestic force erupted, condensing into a deep white sword chi that engulfed the heaven and earth, clashing with the incoming sword array. Crackle. How could the sword formation block this mighty sword chi? In an instant, it was shattered and sent flying back. Danger! Master Sky's sword's face changed color as he held his long sword horizontally in front of him. The next moment, the deep white sword chi swept over. Puff! Spurting out a large mouthful of blood, Master Sky's sword was sent flying like an arrow piercing through the sky. Chapter 703. There were not many people watching this battle, but they were all famous figures such as Su Yuan of the Earth Sword Sect, Master Yuan Sword Sect, who was on good terms with the Sky Sword Sect, and the eldest disciple of the Sky Sword Sect, Master Wind Lightning Sword Sect. Although these people were not as famous as the Sky Sword Sect, they were still in the top 10 or 20 among the Sword Dao Grandmasters. Master has been injured. Wind Thundersword Master was more than 70 years old, but still seemed to be in the prime of his life. His mouth was wide open, his face full of disbelief. He knew that Yi Chun had defeated his master, Master Sky Sword. According to his master, Yi Chun had only won by relying on the defensive sword art. Without the defensive sword art, the two were equally matched. However, this West Ocean Sword Master seemed to have defeated his master easily. The difference was too great. Dozens of li away, Master Sky Sword stopped retreating, blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth like a snake. What a great move! Ocean shifting sword chi. This is the most majestic and powerful sword move I've ever seen. You've indeed surpassed your master, far surpassing your master. Master Sky Sword's expression was solemn. He had never been suppressed like this in a battle between sword masters. Even Yi Chun was only slightly better than him with a defensive sword art. If they were to fight to the death, even if he was killed, Yi Chun wouldn't feel good. HM, I still have the power to fight. Lu Wujian was slightly surprised. This sword contained the profoundness of wind and water. The water profoundness was already at minor completion, and the wind profoundness was close to minor completion. When combined, it was far beyond mid-grade profound martial arts. Adding the ingenious use of power, no profound martial arts of the same level could block it. Unfortunately, I have developed a new Sky Sword style in the past year. Now, I will use you test it. Master Sky Sword said lightly. Huh. Hearing this, Lu Wujian laughed. Using me to test your moves? I'm afraid I won't be impressed by your sword moves, but I will give you a chance. Go all out. Lu Wujian quietly waited for Master Sky Sword's strongest move. Master Sky Sword didn't get angry. He raised his arm and placed the long sword in front of his chest, as if performing the most pious sword salute. Sword of Understanding. With a slash of the long sword, the Heavenly Sword Sect unleashed the latest Heavenly Sword style. No one could describe how fast this sword was. This sword seemed to have caused time to stop and thoughts to stagnate. Lu Wujian, who bore the brunt of this attack, could feel the terror of this sword the most. If Sect Master Sky Sword's previous attack had only piqued his interest, then this Sword of Understanding had already brought him some threat. Ultimate kill, 8,000 miles thread. The Heaven Sword sect had the Sword of Understanding, but Lu Wujian also had his own trump card. Before this, he hadn't been serious at all. He grasped the sharp long sword in his hand and swung it in the air. A moment later, a white ray of light shot out. At a glance, it was like the line between the sea and the sky, vast, profound, and unreachable. Puff! Master Sky's sword of understanding was extremely powerful. His sword chi condensed into a straight line, while Lu Wujian's 1,000 miles thread was similar, condensing into a straight line. However, when the two attacks collided, the one that collapsed was Master Sky's sword of understanding. That was because Lu Wujian's attack contained too much power, and there was no end to it at all. No matter how powerful the sword of understanding was, how could it block it? What a profound water profound. Master Sky Sword's eyes narrowed. How could he not see that Lu Wujian also contained the two profound essences of wind and water? But it was different from the sea, shifting sword chi. This 1,000 miles thread used the water profound as the main element, displaying the water profound to the fullest. When facing this move, it was like being in the sea. Although one could see the line between the sea and the sky, no matter how fast one would never be able to reach it. Creak! The 1,000 miles thread shattered the sword of understanding and slashed at Master Sky Sword's chest at a speed that he couldn't dodge in time. In the next moment, a loud metallic sound resounded. Master Sky Sword's hair was disheveled as he flew back while spurting blood. Unlike the previous time, his injuries were extremely severe. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were almost displaced, and his blood was flowing in reverse. To be able to force me to use 1,000 miles thread, you should be proud of yourself. Unfortunately, your potential has been exhausted. In the future, the gap between us will only grow bigger and bigger. Sheathing his long sword, Lu Wujian said to the majestic young man and the multicolor-robed woman, "Let's go." Swish, swish, swish. The three disappeared from everyone's sight like flickering lights. "Master, are you all right?" Master Tempest Sword immediately rushed over to support Master Sky Sword. Master Sky Sword's face was ashen as he waved his hand. "I won't die." Master Earth Sword sucked in a deep breath and asked, "Master Sky Sword, in your opinion, what is the extent of this Lu Wujian strength?" "I reckon he can sweep through all sea of soul masters on true spirit continent." Master Sky Sword pondered for a while before speaking. "What? How is that possible?" Master Earth Sword and Master Yuan Sword were astonished. "Isn't there still Yi Chun?" Su Yuan blurted out. Master Sky Sword smiled bitterly. "In the past year, I've created the Sword of Understanding, and my strength has improved by a lot. A year ago, Yi Chen's strength was higher than mine. If he had continued to make rapid progress, he would at most be on par with the current Lu Wujian. However, I can feel that Lu Wujian's true strength is far from this. He hasn't used all his trump cards yet." Master Sky Sword originally believed that Lu Wujian's strength was only at this level. However, as soon as 1,000 miles thread appeared, he immediately sensed that Lu Wujian had an even stronger trump card. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant. If Yi Chen wanted to defeat him, it would be extremely difficult. This, Su Yuan and Master Yuan Sword exchanged a glance. "I hope my guess is wrong." Master Sky Sword shook his head once more and left under the support of Master Wind Lightning. "This matter is getting out of hand." Su Yuan's face was filled with worry. As a master of true spirit continent, he didn't want to see all the Master Sea of Soul Realm experts of the continent being swept by a youngster of West Ocean. "Perhaps there will be a turn for the better," Master Yuan Sword said in a low voice. In the depths of North Ocean was a group of floating islands. At the center of the group was an inverted cone-shaped floating island. This island was boundless, with mountains, basins, forests, volcanoes, rivers, plains, and valleys. At the edge of the floating island, large and small waterfalls cascaded down, pouring down on the floating island below. At the same time, Waterfalls also cascaded down from the floating island, flowing down to the floating island below. From afar, this group of floating islands was like a paradise, a wonder of the immortal world. It was truly beautiful, magnificent, and exquisite at the same time. On the inverted cone-shaped floating island, there was a huge palace that occupied several thousand hectares. Inside the palace, a middle-aged man and a youngster were standing one after another. In front of them was a model of a continent. Based on its shape and geographical distribution, one could tell at a glance that it was a model of true spirit continent. Above the model were numerous sparkling and translucent lines intertwining, covering the entire sky above the model. At a glance, it was simply impossible to count. There were at least millions of them intertwining together. The middle-aged man waved his finger, and a light that landed on the thin line at the center of the continent. That was the central region, Sky Marshal region. Tion Ergo, with the Sky Marshal region. The youngster said respectfully, "Master, why do you want me to go to Sky Marshal region? If my guess is correct, the Forbidden region carrying 4 Extreme Emperor's graveyard will move to Sky Marshal region within a year. You possess the first style of Void-Shattering Finger and Sky Scorpio King's key, which means that this graveyard is fated with you. However, fate is fleeting, and you have to fight for it yourself. For Extreme Emperor's graveyard will move to Sky Marshal region." The youngster sucked in a deep breath and bowed respectfully, "Yes, master. Remember, Void-Shattering Finger has 4 styles, and there are also 4 keys to open the graveyard. The other 3 keys should be in the hands of others. If you can snatch them, do it. If you can't, then cooperate with them. I have a premonition that with the 4 Void-Shattering Finger styles and the 4 keys, you should be able to enter 4 Extreme Emperor's graveyard. Rest assured, master, with my strength, unless it's a half-step king or a life-and-death king, nobody can be my opponent." A cold light flickered in the youngster's eyes. "Your master knows your strength the best. However, Sky Marshal region is a holy land for geniuses. Perhaps there aren't many who can contend against you, but there are certainly some who you can't kill." "I can't kill them." The youngster declined to comment. "All right, you can go now." The middle-aged man waved his hand. "Farewell, master." The youngster turned around and left the palace, soaring into the sky and flying in the direction of True Spirit Continent, soon disappearing without a trace. Waiting for the youngster to leave, the middle-aged man clasped his hands behind his back, for Extreme Emperor's graveyard has appeared. It's time for me to take a look. I wonder what level the strength of those fellows from True Spirit Continent has reached. I hope they won't disappoint me. Dragon King should come out of seclusion soon. With a wave of his hand, the model of True Spirit Continent disappeared into the void, and the middle-aged man's figure flickered, disappearing from the palace. Emperor Canyon. Yi Chun and the rest had long since left. On Emperor Scar Steel, the traces left behind by 4 Extreme Emperor flickered faintly like an illusion. In the following month, Yi Chun and the group traveled to a lot of places. There were natural wonders and strange terrains caused by ancient king-level battles. There were countless of them. A month passed, and everyone went their separate ways. Yi Chun and Murong Qinsheng didn't return to South River region. It was already August, only a month away from 18th of September. If they went back, they wouldn't have enough time. Therefore, they might as well stay in Sky Marshal region. During this period of time, the news of West Ocean Sword Master Lu Wujian defeating Master Sky Sword spread like wildfire. Soon after, the incident at White Cloud Restaurant spread as well. Combining the 2 matters, it immediately created a sensation. Many people knew that a sword master named Lu Wujian had come to West Ocean. Apart from defeating Master Sky Sword in his master's stead, he was also going to meet the geniuses of True Spirit Continent on 18th of September. West Ocean Sword Master, Continent's Sword Master. This was just a gimmick. Adding Lu Wujian's arrogant words, Nine Dragon Lake once again welcomed a golden age after 2 years. At that time, the number of people heading to Nine Dragon Lake would probably surpass that of the past, because this time was different from the last. This time represented the dignity of True Spirit Continent. If all of them were defeated by Lu Wujian, it would be tantamount to admitting that true spirit continent was inferior to West Ocean. Chapter 704. As the days passed, the 18th of September got closer and closer. As time went on, a large number of Sea of Soul Realm experts arrived from the nearby towns. Even Sea of Soul Realm masters could be seen frequently, which was something unimaginable in the past. Inside the restaurants and tea houses, all sorts of discussions could be heard. West Ocean Sword Master Lu Wujian has come with great momentum. Even Master Sky Sword lost him. Right now, I'm a bit worried that he might really sweep through all the geniuses in the Sky Martial region. That shouldn't be possible, right? Regardless, our true spirit continent is the place with the most geniuses. It's not something the four oceans can compare to. You can't say that. Who says a remote place can't give birth to an invincible genius? Moreover, West Ocean has always been the most powerful among the four oceans. Only North Ocean can compete with him. Sigh, it seems like this era is even more frightening than we imagined. Although West Ocean and North Ocean had many geniuses in the past, it was impossible for a super genius like Lu Wujian to appear. Do you think the number of life and death kings in the next 100 years will be much higher than before? It's quite possible. In the past 100 years, there would be around 10 life and death kings, and not more than 20. This time, I'm afraid it will be no less than 30, perhaps even more. In the ancient era, the number of life and death kings was the highest. Although they were not everywhere, it was still a spectacular sight. In the medieval era, the number of life and death kings suddenly decreased by 1-fold. In the recent ancient era, it had decreased by 2-folds. In the modern era, it had decreased by several folds. If more than 30 life and death kings could be born in 100 years, it would be the level of the late ancient era. Dugu family. Dugaju walked out of the evil demon cave with a calm expression. He did not look as miserable and frightening as before, as if the evil demon cave no longer had any effect on him. Walking to a huge wooden board not far away, Dugaju stretched out his hand and took down the white paper nailed to it. It turned out that Dugaju often went into seclusion. Fearing that he didn't know much about the outside world, he had ordered people to write down some of the important matters of the Sky Martial region and even the whole continent on the paper. This way, even if he didn't leave Dugaju, he would still know everything about the world. West Ocean Sword Master, Lu Wujian. When Dugaju read about Lu Wujian, his eyes gradually narrowed. Interesting. You actually defeated Master Sky Sword and even met with Yichun. Since you're able to stand on equal footing with Yichun, you're definitely not weak. Fine, let me see how many tricks you have up your sleeves and whether you're qualified to be a formidable opponent of my Dugaju. The paper was crumpled into a ball and turned into ashes. The evil demon cave does not have any effect on me anymore, unless I can open the seal and enter the next level. But with the weakening of the seal, that evil demon would definitely take the chance to attack the seal and escape. So, it would not be a good idea. No rush. I will think about it after I reach Late Sea of Soul's Realm. Just like Yi Chun, Dugaju was also stuck at the peak of Mid-Sea of Soul Realm. Entering Late Sea of Soul Realm was inevitable, but it would take some time. Taking a step forward, Dugaju walked out of the demonic cave. Unknowingly, it was already September, and the date was fixed on September 16th. Near the Nine Dragon Mountain, a large number of Sea of Souls realm warriors were rushing toward the Nine Dragon Mountain in an endless stream. September 17th, those who should come had all come. In the center of the Nine Dragon Mountain, around the Nine Dragon Lake, there was an ocean of people, their voices reaching the sky. Shoo, 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 shoo. On this day, the number of geniuses who had come was also the highest. Bai Wuxue, Yin Fengfeng, Lu Xiaoyu, Situ Hao, Bai Minghui, Chu Zhongtian. Besides a few, all the other top geniuses whose names shook the world had arrived, wanting to see what kind of level the so-called West Ocean Sword Master had reached. Beside Lu Xiaoyu, a lot of people had gathered, including Bai Wuxue. Brother Lu, you fought with the West Ocean Sword Master half a year ago. How is his strength? Bai Wuxue asked. Lu Xiaoyu was silent for a while, then said slowly, Very powerful. Hearing him, Bai Wushue's expression froze. Lu Xiaoyou's words were very vague for others. Very powerful, everyone knew, but they did not know exactly how powerful, which was tantamount to not answering. However, Bai Wuxue was very clear about Lu Xiaoyou's character. If the West Ocean Sword Master was only a bit more powerful than him, he would not say the word very powerful. But, to make him say very powerful, this West Ocean Sword Master was definitely an extremely dangerous person. But it's not like I did not make any progress in this half a year. A cold light flashed through Lu Xiaoyou's eyes. Bai Wuxue nodded, not saying anything. My Imperial Sword technique has been cultivated to the 3rd level. Although I can only launch 3 swords at the same time, it is still twice as powerful as the 2nd level of the Imperial Sword technique. The telepathic sword that I got from Yichun helped me comprehend the profound meaning of speed, and the speed of my sword has been greatly improved. Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master, let me see how powerful you are. Situ Hao stood alone on the peak with a smile on his face. He knew he was not a match for Lu Wujian, but for him, as long as he could fight with people at this level for a while, it would be something to be proud of, which meant he had the potential to catch up. Thinking for a while, Situ Hao thought to himself, Yichun got my Imperial Sword technique, but I don't know which level he has cultivated it to. I guess he is at the 2nd level, but not beyond the peak of the 2nd level. At that time, I might have to compete with him in the Imperial Sword technique to see who is better. The night passed. The 18th of September arrived. The sky had just brightened when 3 figures came through the air, and the one in the lead was none other than Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master. Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master. Lu Wujian is here. The people near the 9-Dragon Lake were all startled. They looked at the 3 figures and then focused on the one in the lead. Lu Wujian's body was not strong, and he was a little thin. His palms were slender like bamboo, and they seemed to have some kind of magic power. On his face, which was not very handsome, he had a pair of narrow and sharp eyes and a tall nose. At first glance, one would be attracted to him. Looking around, Lu Wujian did not find Yi Chen's figure, and the corner of his mouth rose. Humph, the continent's sword master? I'm afraid he is too scared to come. The woman in colorful clothes sneered. No hurry, there are a lot of people who interest me here. I can play for a long time, Lu Wujian said lightly. Indeed, there are a lot of powerful warriors. The young man's expressionless eyes gradually turned sharp. If he was a rock before, then he was a piece of steel now. The aura he was giving off was not any weaker than Lu Wujian's. Lu Wujian was the red flower, and he was the most obvious green leaf. You are Lu Wujian. The first one to stand out was Bai Minghui. All martial geniuses did not want to lose. Even though he knew that he was no match for Yi Chun, he still wanted to challenge him. You do not interest me at all. Lu Wujian glanced at Bai Minghui and then shook his head. You will know soon whether I am interested or not. Take the spear attack of mine first. Bai Minghui took out the long spear on his back and waved it out. The invisible spear light ignored most of the distance, and it was indeed Sky Bank. Nailin, you go meet him, Lu Wujian said to the woman in colorful clothes. All right. The woman in colorful clothes jumped up as a long red whip appeared in her hand. She lashed out at the invisible spear light. That unbelievably fast spear light seemed to have sunk into a swamp all of a sudden. Its speed was drastically reduced before it was shattered into pieces by the long whip. So powerful. This Bai Minghui is ranked in the top 20 in the Master Level Warrior ranking, but his killing attack was blocked by a girl right next to Lu Wujian. Don't worry, Bai Minghui still has a second movement. Everyone knew quite a bit about Bai Minghui's killing attack. Plus, it had been more than a year, and it would be impossible for him to not improve at all. Perhaps he had already figured out the third movement. Second movement. Indeed, Bai Minghui's expression darkened slightly when he saw that his first attack had been broken. He immediately performed his second attack. In the next second, 5 beams of silver light attacked toward the woman from different angles. Their speed was even faster than the first attack, and they were even stealthier. Bloodthirst kill. The woman in colorful clothes attacked almost at the same time as Bai Minghui, performing the same attack that she had used on Murong Qingqing that day. It was performed with a long whip weapon, so its power was even more powerful. The woman in colorful clothes shook her long whip, and a three-headed red snake was formed immediately. Its three heads clashed onto the 5 silver light beams. Pooh! 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 The snake heads were punctured, but the silver light disappeared as well. If this is all you have, then you will lose for sure. The woman in colorful clothes had suffered a loss at the hands of Murong Qingqing, but it did not mean that she was not as powerful as Murong Qingqing. After all, that day at the restaurant, she had been a bit careless and did not use her full power. Plus, Murong Qingqing was already very powerful, and she was at least ranked in the top 10 of the Master Level Warrior ranking. What a joke! I have not even used my true power yet. Bai Minghui's expression was serious. At first, he had looked down on the woman in colorful clothes, thinking that Lu Wujian was just brushing him off. But now, he did not think so anymore. The woman in colorful clothes was much more powerful than he had imagined. If he did not use his full power, then he might really lose. Third movement, Sky Bank Separation. His body split into two as the two Bai Minghui performed the Sky Bank movement at the same time. Although it was only one movement, the aura was completely opposite. It was as if one was in the light while the other was in the dark. The two auras merged together, and the Sky Bank movement immediately changed. The sharp spear light expanded infinitely, expanding by hundreds or even thousands of times in an instant. It shot out, and the clouds in the sky were instantly separated. This Bai Minghui has actually managed to learn the 3 movements of the Sky Bank. Once this movement is completed, his ranking will probably go up a couple of places. Maybe he can even get into the top 10. Everyone was secretly shocked. The woman in colorful clothes' pupil shrank. This spear attack was really out of her expectation. It actually gave her the illusion that she could not block it. Dragon Slash. Under the huge pressure, the woman in colorful clothes finally used her strongest trump card. Red Jin Yuan poured into the long whip, which was like a huge chain. It coiled out and wrapped around the fierce spear light. Creak! Creak! Sparks flew everywhere. The long whip and the spear light wrestled with each other, neither giving in. But in the end, the spear light was like a trapped flood dragon, and it was instantly torn apart. Lose! With no time to lose, the woman in colorful clothes swung her long whip, and the whip light turned into a scarlet python that struck Bai Minghui's protective Jin Yuan. Puff! Bai Minghui puked out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Bai Minghui lost. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. If it was Lu Wujian who had defeated Bai Minghui, it would not be a big deal. After all, Lu Wujian's strength was undeniable. However, this woman in colorful clothes was only a follower of Lu Wujian, and yet she also had such a frightening strength that even Bai Minghui could not block it. How could they not be shocked? Chapter 705. It is indeed the style of the West Ocean. Bai Wuxue had also been to the West Ocean before, and the warriors there valued speed the most. If they could finish it with one blade attack, they would not bother with a second blade attack. Although Bai Minghui's power was only around 10th, his spear speed could be at least in the top 5. However, that lady's attacking speed was not any slower than his at all. It's too powerful. That long whip appears and disappears like a ghost. It's as easy as using an arm. If this girl is already this powerful, I wonder how powerful Lu Wujian is? It seems like Lu Wujian does not plan to attack right away. If I want to challenge him, I will have to beat this girl and that aggressive young man first. Even Bai Minghui cannot do it. If I want to beat this girl, I will have to be ranked higher than him. Everyone discussed among themselves, looking a bit worried. Chu Zhongtian will fight you. On a flat ground right next to the Nine-Dragon Lake, Chu Zhongtian jumped into the air and landed right in front of the lady. That aggressive aura exploded out of his body, bringing up a tornado. Chu Zhongtian has come out, but his rank is lower than Bai Minghui's. Bai Minghui is 16th, and he is 18th. Can he handle this girl? It seems like you guys still do not know much about Chu Zhongtian. Although his power might not be as powerful as Bai Ming Hui, he has the evil spirit body, which gives him an amazing defense. If it comes to a battle of life and death, he will definitely be able to kill Bai Ming Hui and even those ranked higher than him. The ranking was based on one's power, which meant that it would be ranked according to one's power. However, sometimes power did not mean everything. For example, in some situations, people with powerful survival skills would be able to kill people with higher power. Without a doubt, Chu Zhongtian's defense was definitely one of the best in the ranking, so it would not be wrong to rank him first. You will not be my opponent. The lady in colorful clothes had a very sharp eye. Judging from the aura on Chu Zhongtian's body, she could tell that he would not be more powerful than Bai Ming Hui. Since even Bai Ming Hui had lost to her, it would be pointless for him to come out and waste her time. Whether or not I will be your opponent is not up to you to decide. Chu Zhongtian looked cold as his aura increased rapidly. That dark red light flickered on the surface of his body like a layer of shiny film. Lu Wujin was slightly surprised and said to the rainbow-clothed lady, "Nalan, be careful. This person possesses the astral body and has a very high defense." Astral body? The woman's expression changed, and she said coldly, "So that's how it is. Make your move. Even if you have the evil spirit body, I will still defeat you." I hope you can still say that later. Back then, Chu Zhongtian's weapon was a dark red rapier. But now, his weapon had long since been replaced with a semi-extreme grade weapon. It was red with a hint of silver, and it was extremely heavy. This was a reward for Chu Zhongtian, and the sect had spent a huge price to buy it. With a mace in hand, Chu Zhongtian poured his potent astral essence into it. Immediately, tiny specks of red dust began to float around the mace. These specks of dust shimmered with an illusory light, as if they were compressed diamonds and contained a terrifying energy. Mortal, fragmented mace. Chu Zhongtian's figure flashed as he transformed into a dark red ray of light. He instantly arrived a few dozen steps away from the woman in colorful clothes and smashed his mace down. Bloodthirsty triple kill. The multicolor-robed woman did not retreat or evade. With a flick of her whip, a three-headed crimson python charged out. The python head in the middle welcomed the attack, while the two python heads flanked Chu Zhongtian's body from the left and right. She seemed to have the intention of killing Chu Zhongtian with a single move. Break! Chu Zhongtian didn't pay any attention to the incoming python head and smashed the middle python head. Pung! The python head exploded and dissipated into nothingness. Puff puff. Soon after, the other two python heads also attacked Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan. However, Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan was too powerful. It only caved in a large area like a broken lotus root. Ever since his cultivation base had reached mid-sea of Soul Realm, Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan hadn't been broken in a long time. On the master's ranking, there were only a few who could do so. What? His defense is this powerful? The complexion of the multicolor-robed woman greatly changed. She had underestimated the intensity of Chu Zhongtian's astral yuan. Tyrant Dragon Destruction Mace. Mid-rank Profound Sense Martial Arts took a little longer to charge up, so Chu Zhongtian seized this rare opportunity to use a low-rank Profound Sense Martial Art, Tyrant Dragon Destruction Truncheon. A red light flashed, and a dark red, demonic dragon chi attacked the multicolor-robed woman. Huff! The multicolor-robed woman retreated a dozen steps, but she wasn't injured. A low-grade Profound Sense martial skill couldn't threaten her. However, her blood and chi were shaken to the point of being unstable. Fragmented Mace. After the Tyrant Dragon Destruction, Mace was a low-grade, Profound Sense martial skill, Fragmented Mace. The mortal Fragmented Mace he had used before was a mid-grade, Profound Sense martial skill. However, the multicolor-robed woman was from the West Ocean, and her attack speed was too fast. If he wanted to seize the upper hand, he could only use low-grade Profound Sense martial skills that were faster to suppress her and slowly grind her to death. Rumble. The multicolor-robed woman forcefully took on this attack and was forced to take another dozen steps back. Chu Zhongtian continued to press forward, using both the fragmented mace and the tyrant dragon destruction mace in turns without any pause in between. His whole body was like a dark red tornado as he kept attacking his opponent. Everyone watching the battle was dumbfounded. They hadn't expected that the multicolor-robed woman who had defeated Bai Minghui would be suppressed by Chu Zhongtian, unable to fight back. This guy's defense is so freakishly powerful. Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan had arrived as well. Li Xiaoyun smiled bitterly. You have low-grade profound sense martial skills, but so do I. It was the first time that the multicolor-robed woman was forced to use low-grade profound sense martial skills. She felt a bit sullen inside. Wind Flame Whip. Beams of fiery red whip shadows shot out as the multicolor-robed woman finally blocked out Chu Zhongtian's attack and slowly turned the situation around. Volcano Mace. But at this moment, Chu Zhongtian suddenly jumped back several hundred meters. Gripping the swordbreaker with both hands, he smashed it down. This swordbreaker was like the earth splitting apart and a volcano erupting. All of its power was unleashed in an instant, its power incomparably fierce. Mid-grade fire and earth profound sense martial skill. Volcano Mace. Damn! The multicolor-robed woman placed both of her hands in front of her and formed a red crystal shield. Crack! The red crystal shield had just formed when it was cracked by the volcanic mace power. Crackling sparks flew everywhere, and lava splashed everywhere. Don't be too proud. Watch my fire cloud art. The multicolor-robed woman removed the red crystal shield as her body floated away like she was weightless. She was like a fire cloud that moved at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, she had arrived on the right side of Chu Zhongtian. In the next second, a whip shadow coiled down and bound Chu Zhongtian's body. Crack! Crack! A couple of marks appeared on his protective evil yuan, and the edges started to crack. Bang! Finally, Chu Zhongtian's protective evil yuan was shattered. The whip shadow coiled around Chu Zhongtian's body and continued to tighten. Break! Chu Zhongtian's muscles swelled as the light on his body flickered countless times. With a snapping sound, the whip shadow broke into pieces and disappeared. How can an evil spirit body be so strong? The multicolor-robed woman was in despair. She had never seen an evil spirit body and thought that it was only twice as strong as an ordinary spirit body. However, Chu Zhongtian's appearance made her realize that the evil spirit body's strength was beyond her imagination. It was probably the strongest physique so far. Nailin, you can't beat him. Let me do it. The majestic youth flashed and arrived beside the multicolor-robed woman. Brother Gu, the multicolor-robed woman was a little unwilling. Lu Wujian said, Nailin, come back. Yes. The multicolor-robed woman had to listen to Lu Wujian. I am Gu Lai, also known as Tyrant Sabermaster. I will deal with you in 3 sabers. The majestic youth said in an extremely calm tone. Arrogant words. Chu Zhongtian loosened his muscles and looked straight at Gu Lai. First saber. Gu Lai simply drew his saber and slashed. Crack. Chu Zhongtian didn't have time to dodge at all. A huge crack appeared on his protective evil yuan, and the saber light hit his body, causing traces of blood to appear. Too fast. I can't even see how he attacked. Everyone around the Nine-Dragon Lake was shocked. Second saber. Gu Lai indifferently waved the second saber, and layers of saber curtains appeared. His body shook violently, and Chu Zhongtian's protective Zhen Yuan collapsed instantly. His thin inner armor caved in, and his bones started to hurt. Third saber. This time, Gu Lai's right arm swelled as he waved his saber, drawing a full moon mark. Chu Zhongtian was right on the edge of the full moon. Dang! Chu Zhongtian had finally blocked Gu Lai's attack, but before he could let out a sigh of relief, a majestic force was transmitted into his body through the puppet. He couldn't help but spit out a small mouthful of dark red blood, and his entire body was sent flying. 3 saber strikes, and Chu Zhongtian was defeated. Could this guy also be a first-rate super expert in Dugaju? Too frightening. Chu Zhongtian's defense is nothing to him, and his saber speed is frighteningly fast. My premonition is getting worse and worse. The enemy this time is too powerful, and it's not just one person. Amidst the discussion, Lu Wujian smiled lightly and mumbled to himself, "Gu Lai's tyrant blade. Even I have to be careful. If I want to win, I will have to exchange more than 300 attacks. How could a mid-sea of Souls Realm warrior stop him, even if he has the evil spirit body?" Including by Wu Xue, a lot of martial geniuses' expressions changed. Tyrant Blade Master Gu Lai was definitely a very dangerous warrior. In the ranking, perhaps only Dugaju could compete with him. As for who would win, no one knew, because they didn't know how powerful Dugaju was right now. Unfortunately, Dugaju had not arrived yet, and the number of people who could compete with Gu Lai could be counted on one's fingers. Moreover, none of them had a high chance of winning, since the highest-ranked warrior here was by Wu Xue, who was ranked 4th, and Yin Fengfeng, who was ranked 5th. The rest of them would not be Gu Lai's opponent at all. However, Dantai Mingyue, who was ranked 3rd, had arrived, so she might have a chance of winning. But she was even more mysterious and would not attack easily. Hundreds of li away, 2 human figures arrived side by side. What a brutal blade art! No wonder Chu Zhongtian is not his opponent. Yi Chen's soul power had already seen what was happening above the Nine-Dragon Lake, and he was a bit surprised. Chapter 706. Chu Zhongtian had the evil spirit body. Every time he reached a higher realm, his power would increase by a whole new level. Right now, although Chu Zhongtian was only at mid-sea of Soul's realm, and had not even reached peak level yet, his evil yuan was still not something normal people could imagine. Even Murong Qingqing's demon power could not compare to Murong Qingqing's demon power. Of course, she had the perfect demi-demon bloodline, which combined with her demon power, made her look like a human demon's. Adding on the fact that her cultivation had already reached late sea of Soul's realm, and she had gone through the one with the world state, her profound sense martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds, which was why her battling power was more powerful than Chu Zhongtian's. If Chu Zhongtian reached late sea of Soul's realm, he would definitely be in the top 3 of the master-level warrior ranking. He would be able to compete with Dugaju and Dantai Mingyue. As for who would be more powerful, it would be hard to say. Besides his evil spirit body and evil yuan, Chu Zhongtian was still lacking in other areas. The Great Era is coming. After 10 years, there should be a lot of people here who will reach the life and death realm. Yi Chen let out a breath as a strange light flashed through his eyes. Xianhou had reached the life and death realm at the age of 35, which was a record that was very rare even in the Great Era. There might not be many people who could surpass her. Even Yi Chen himself did not have the confidence to reach the life and death realm before the age of 35, since there was still half-step King Warrior above peak level late sea of Soul's realm. Just the gap between half-step King Warrior and peak level late sea of Soul's realm had already trapped a lot of people, not to mention the life and death realm. In other words, every step after peak level late sea of Soul's realm was like an abyss. No matter how talented one was, there might still be a chance that one step would fail. However, everyone present here was a rare martial genius. After 10 years, there should be some who would be able to reach the life and death realm. For example, Bai Wuxue and the rest of the young generation were already around 35 years old, or even older. After 10 years, it would not be impossible for them to reach the life and death realm. Moreover, after 10 years, Yi Chen himself will be 37 years old. The two were traveling at an extremely fast speed, covering hundreds of miles in just a couple of blinks. Yi Chen is here, near Jiulong Lake. Thousands of pairs of eyes looked at Yi Chen and Murong Qingsheng as they flew over. In an instant, Yi Chen became the center of attention. Who? Some of them heaved a sigh of relief, and the worry on their faces faded away. Previously, Yi Chen, Dugaju, and Dantai Mingyue were not here. Although there were many of them, there were only a few of them who were powerful, so it was inevitable that they lacked confidence. Now that Yi Chen was here, all of them seemed to have found their backbone and were no longer oppressed by Lu Wujian and Gu Lai's imposing manner. They secretly heaved a sigh of relief. With Yi Chen here, Our true spirit continent's chance of victory has increased by at least 30%. We already have a fighting chance. It's a pity that Duguju and Dantai Mingyue aren't here. Otherwise, our chances of winning would be higher. Don't worry. It's only daybreak now. Maybe they'll all come later. Everyone spoke one after another, discussing spiritedly. Sure enough, you've come. Lu Wujin looked at Yi Chun. Yi Chun said indifferently, "No need to waste time. You and I will decide the winner and loser." "No." Lu Wujin shook his head. "I'm not sure if you have the qualifications to fight with me. If you want to fight with me, you'll have to defeat Gu Lai first." Arrogant. So arrogant. Does he think this is the West Ocean? Hearing these words, the spectators were filled with righteous indignation. "Yi Chun, I'll fight in your place." Just as Yi Chun was about to speak, Yin Fengfeng appeared. She had seen Gu Lai's strength with her own eyes, and it was indeed powerful. She didn't have 50% assurance, but she had the advantage of speed. Even if she couldn't win, it would be hard for him to injure her. In this aspect, no one else could compare to her. "Be careful." Yi Chun didn't refuse. He was very clear about Yin Fengfeng's advantage and strength. Swish! Abruptly, from the northwest, a beam of light shot over, blade, chi crisscrossing. "We both use blades. Let me fight him." The light dispersed, revealing a human figure standing in the sky. It was a proud and aloof young man. If it wasn't Duguju, who else could it be? His eyes landed on Gu Lai as he said indifferently. Yin Fengfeng hesitated for a bit, then backed off. Since Duguju was here, there was no need for her to fight with Gu Lai. Most importantly, she felt that her chances of winning were not high, and she might very well lose. "Duguju. It's Duguju. I didn't expect him to only be one step behind Yi Chun. I was worried when he would come." "Ah, Yi Chun is here. Duguju is here. What is there to worry about?" Duguju's arrival had boosted everyone's confidence. Before, they were still worried about Yi Chun being alone. But now, all the problems have been solved. "Bring out your blade." Duguju was the first to gain the upper hand as he looked at Gu Lai with a condescending attitude. 99 blade strikes. I will defeat you." Gu Lai looked at Duguju with a serious expression. He could feel that the latter's blade aura was not weaker than his at all. Moreover, it carried an aura that made people feel despair. 99 blade strikes. Even if you attack 1,000 times, you won't be able to harm a single hair of mine. Duguju sneered. First blade strike. Gu Lai didn't waste any time. He pulled out his long blade, and the muscles in his right arm bulged as he slashed out diagonally. It was not over yet. After the first blade strike, Gu Lai's second blade strike followed closely. One blade strike after another, a total of 9 blade strikes. Each blade strike was aimed at the blind spots, fast as lightning. Clang, 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 clang. Duguju pulled out his long and thin blade, bouncing off all of Gu Lai's attacks. He seemed to be very relaxed, as if he had done it with ease. So powerful. Duguju is even more powerful than before. Even Gu Lai's 9 blade strikes couldn't threaten him at all. Duguju defeat him. The crowd roared. Beside Lu Xiaoyu, by Wuxue praised. He is indeed one of the monstrous geniuses. His improvement is not something that ordinary people can compare with. Although Bai Wuxue was ranked 4th on the master ranking, and Duguju was ranked 2nd, Bai Wuxue might not lose to Duguju if they went all out in a battle. However, it was obvious that Duguju had become stronger, and it was not just a little bit stronger. He could use his blade techniques with ease and familiarity. Yi Chun, how many moves do you think it will take to decide the winner? Morong Qingsheng asked Yi Chun. Yi Chun thought for a while and said, more than 300 moves. The winner will most likely be Duguju. You think Duguju will win? The Despair Blade intent is very difficult to control. Duguju was able to restrain it and only release it at the moment of attack. This proves that his realm has improved again. Yes, it is a little different. Morong Qingsheng nodded faintly. Bring out your killing move. Otherwise, you will lose miserably. Duguju was so powerful that even Gu Lai was starting to be affected by him. This was unimaginable in the past, because Gu Lai's entrance was too domineering. He defeated Chu Zhongtian, who had one of the best defenses with 3 saber strikes. "Brother Gu, defeat him for me," the multicolor-robed lady shouted, feeling very unhappy. Gulai was not in the mood to deal with a multicolor-robed lady. Duguju's strength had exceeded his expectations. He felt like he was fighting against Lu Wujian, and he was on the defensive at every turn. Purgatory Chop. With his mind, chi, and spirit at a high level, Gulai flew up and hacked down with his saber. The gray saber chi connected the sky and earth, ruthless and tyrannical. Good. Duguju did not retreat or dodge. He waved the saber in his hand, and a despairing aura burst out, causing the sky to turn white. Boom! Duguju fell down, and his feet stepped on the lake, creating ripples. Gulai somersaulted a few times in the air before landing on a mountain peak. With this move, Duguju had the upper hand. Tyrannical, 24 saber strikes. Feeling that his killing move was slightly weaker, Gulai stomped on the mountain peak and flashed, arriving at Duguju in the blink of an eye. He waved his saber again and again, choosing to engage in close combat. Clang, 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 clang. How could Duguju be afraid of him? He waved his saber to meet the attacks. Above the lake and in the sky, saber lights flashed everywhere. Chi exploded, and the two's figures could not be seen anymore. It was as if they had hidden in the void. Crack! Waves of saber chi leaked out, and the surroundings of the Nine-Dragon Lake became unrecognizable. Such a fast exchange. The battle between 2 saber users is more exciting than I had imagined. Too powerful. If I go up, I'm afraid I won't even see their silhouettes before getting killed. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, the multicolor-robed woman creased her brows. She originally believed that the continent had no experts and had long since declined. However, the appearance of Duguju was like a sharp saber, shattering her confidence in Gulai. This Duguju was indeed very powerful. She had no idea where he had come from. Saber of Despair. Duguju's pupils turned eerily white as he slashed out with his saber. Despair chi condensed into a line and bombarded Gulai along with the saber chi. Not good. Gulai thought that his saber speed was fast enough, but Duguju was actually a bit faster than him. He promptly raised his saber to block and lowered his center of gravity. Clang! Glaring sparks burst forth as Gulai's feet slid on the lake water, his clothes torn. Despair Fox. Duguju didn't show any mercy. His saber chi became even more vigorous as he slashed out a demonic fox phantom. The demonic fox phantom had a sinister appearance and densely packed sharp teeth. Exuding a dense despair chi, it bit at Gulai. Sky Absolute Tyrannical Saber. Blue veins popping out on his forehead, Gulai furiously roared. His aura erupted fiercely, and his entire body seemed to turn into a giant as he forcefully slashed out with his saber. Swoosh! The mournful saber light slashed at the demonic fox phantom. Roar! Before the demonic fox phantom was slashed apart, it spat out a pale, white beam of light, which struck Gulai's protective Zhenyuan. With a kacha sound, Gulai's protective Zhenyuan was instantly shattered. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, he involuntarily flew back and fell on the lakeside. Gulai had been defeated by Duguju. From start to finish, he hadn't been able to gain the upper hand. Duguju's strength shocked everyone. Even Lu Wujian faintly creased his brows, feeling that Duguju wasn't easy to deal with. Others couldn't compare to him. Turns out he's the most powerful person on true Spirit Continent. That sword master of the continent only has an undeserved reputation. The multicolor-robed woman said. Interesting. Defeating all the geniuses of true Spirit Continent is my goal this time. But if I were to defeat him effortlessly, it would be too boring. Seems like he's my strongest opponent. Lu Wujian had the thought of fighting. Opponents were hard to come by, and he had always been invincible in West Ocean. It was truly boring. Chapter 707. No wonder he could keep up with Yi-chan. He is simply too powerful. If Yi-chan's improvement speed drops even a little bit, he would be in danger of being surpassed. Li Xiaoyan sucked in a deep breath and mumbled to himself. Yi Chen's unbelievable rise made Li Xiaoyan cautious. Although Dugu Ju was powerful, he could not say that Dugu Ju had surpassed Yi Chen. Regardless, Yi Chen was from the southern regions. Emotionally, he was more biased towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen's expression is very calm. Jing Aoshuan wanted to say something, but after seeing Yi Chen's calm expression, she became pensive. Fortunately, I did not attack. Situ Hao frowned deeply. He had discovered that the geniuses of the Sky Martial region had started to split into two groups. The strong ones were getting stronger, and the weak ones were also getting stronger. However, the gap between their strengths was getting bigger and bigger. He was already showing signs of being left behind, which was not a good sign. All right, I will not fight for one day, but for eternity. A strong sense of danger made Situ Hao put away his arrogance. The great era was coming, and the levels of geniuses were becoming clearer. Among the former top 5 young warriors, only Bai Wuxue was still standing on the front lines with Yi Chen and Dugu Ju. The others were starting to fall. From this moment on, it would be clear who had the potential to reach the life and death realm. It was like a huge wave washing away the sand. Only those who could endure the test would have the possibility of not being eliminated. If he did not work hard, even the second line would be in danger. You are qualified to be my opponent now. Lu Wujin looked at Dugu Ju, his battle intent rising. Chin, putting his blade back into its scabbard, Dugu Ju flashed onto a mountain peak and said, "My only opponent is Yi Chen. Let's talk after you defeat him." Lu Wujian and Yi Chen both used swords. Before Yi Chen revealed his strength, Dugu Ju would not turn his opponent into Lu Wujian. All right, defeating him is not hard. Lu Wujian's expression froze slightly. Dugu Ju's rejection made him a bit unhappy. As far as he was concerned, being acknowledged by Dugu Ju was already something to be proud of. Lu Wujian. Just when Lu Wujian was about to look at Yi Chen, Lu Xiaoyu walked out in front of everyone's shocked gazes. Frowning, Lu Wujian said, "Half a year ago, you were not my opponent. It is still the same now. You should step down. Indeed, I am not confident of defeating you. However, you might not be able to defeat me as easily as you did half a year ago," Lu Xiaoyu said as he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. "Oh, it looks like you have made great progress in the past half a year. You will know whether I have made any progress or not when you try. There is no need for Brother Lu to make a move. I will try you." The colorful-clothed lady was a spectator of the fight between Lu Xiaoyu and Lu Wujian half a year ago. She knew Lu Xiaoyu's strength very well. She did not believe that Lu Xiaoyu could have made great progress in the past half a year. After all, half a year ago, Lu Xiaoyu could not even withstand 10 sword strikes from Lu Wujian. Hence, Lu Xiaoyu was not worthy of Lu Wujian making a move. "Take this." With a long whip in her hand, the colorful-clothed lady attacked Lu Xiaoyu with a wind flame whip. Seeing this, a cold light flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes. He instantly unsheathed his sword and swung it. Dozens of arc-shaped sword chi shot out and approached the colorful-clothed lady. Puff, 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 puff. The whip and the sword chi collided and produced a series of explosions. However, Lu Xiaoyu's sword wasn't that simple. The dozens of sword chi had different trajectories. Some flew in the air, some slashed straight, some arced, and some were full of power. After the colorful-clothed lady's whip was canceled out, there were still several sword chi that attacked her at lightning speed. Fire crystal shield. The colorful-clothed lady quickly used a defensive, profound martial skill. There was a loud bang. In the next moment, the colorful-clothed lady retreated 10 steps. Her face was filled with shock. How is this possible? His strength has increased by more than 50% in the past half a year. She couldn't help but be shocked. Bai Wuxue nodded slightly. Lu Xiaoyu wasn't someone who would get depressed so easily. Failure would only make him improve faster. This had been proven in the past. Clearly, losing to Lu Wujian in 10 moves half a year ago didn't make Lu Xiaoyu quiet. Instead, it made him cultivate even more crazily, bursting out his unprecedented potential. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out to challenge Lu Wujian. So that's how it is. Good. Let's warm up before the big battle. I hope you won't disappoint me. Lu Wujian's clothes were very long, just like his long hair. They fluttered in the wind. He stood in the air and walked toward Lu Xiaoyu step by step. Finally, he stopped 100 steps away. Make your move. Lu Wujian placed his left hand behind his back. Void kill sword art. When Lu Wujian walked over, Lu Xiaoyu had been accumulating his strength and sword aura. When Lu Wujian stopped, he made his move. The distance between them seemed to be ignored. Lu Xiaoyu waved his sword. A strong wind rose, and the sword qi filled the sky. Break! Lu Wujian's left hand was still behind his back. He held the sword hilt with his right hand and pulled it out. Then he clashed a few times in the air, breaking all the sword qi. Fast! Extremely fast. Lu Wujian's sword art was even faster than Lu Xiaoyu's void kill sword art. The sword qi that filled the sky couldn't even get close to him. Void kill sword. Lu Xiaoyu naturally knew that Lu Wujian's sword speed was out of this world. Almost no one in the world could compete with it. But he was already prepared for it, so he wasn't surprised. Letting out a breath, Lu Xiaoyu's Zhen Yuan burst out, pouring into the longsword in his hand. The longsword twisted a bit, bringing up an invisible wind as it stabbed toward Lu Wujian, who was not far away. Pop! Lu Wujian's position was refracted, as if he was in a mirror, and this mirror could shatter at any moment. Your attack power is enough, but it still can't do anything to me. Lu Wujian held his sword with one hand and swept it upward, using the most vigorous and boundless shifting ocean sword qi. Immediately, a deep white sword qi engulfed the heaven and earth, cleanly breaking Lu Xiaoyu's sword aura. The spatial refraction effect also vanished like smoke in thin air. Whoosh! The remaining moving ocean sword qi didn't stop, attacking toward Lu Xiaoyu. He saw the weakness of Lu Xiaoyu's sword attack. Bai Wuxue knew Lu Xiaoyu's ace attack very well. That void kill sword seemed to be close to shattering the space, but it was actually a trick. Wind was everywhere, and the flow of air was wind. This void kill sword contained the profound of wind, which could cause the wind to go berserk and destabilize the space. However, it was still a long way from truly shattering the space. Of course, even though it was a trick, the power of this void kill sword was not to be underestimated. The only weakness was that the attack range was too big and the power was not concentrated. Otherwise, this sword attack would definitely be the most powerful one. Chaotic Wind Chop. Facing the incoming deep white sword qi, Lu Xiaoyu didn't panic at all. The long sword in his hand drew a circle in the air, creating a storm of sword qi. Bang! 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 The deep white sword qi was shattered, turning into thousands of sword threads. Lu Xiaoyu was careless and was hit by a few of the sword threads. His sleeves and shoulder clothes were torn, and he got hit in the chest as well. Blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. This doesn't look good. Lu Xiaoyu's power has improved very quickly, and he might be able to return to the top 5 young giants. But Lu Wujian is too strong. Holding his sword with one hand, he can suppress Lu Xiaoyu. It doesn't seem like he is getting serious. It's my turn. Lu Wujian took a step forward and instantly appeared before Lu Xiaoyu. The long sword in his hand disappeared, and a white sword screen covered the ladder. Ding! 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 Sparks flew everywhere as Lu Xiaoyu did his best to block Lu Wujian's attacks. The speed of his attacks became faster and faster, and without him realizing it, he had already surpassed his limits. There's indeed improvement. Lu Wujian put down his left hand, which was behind his back. His body became more agile, and his sword qi was sometimes as violent as thunder, sometimes as swift as the wind, and sometimes as ferocious as the waves. Pung! Unable to dodge, Lu Xiaoyu was sent flying hundreds of meters away by his sword qi. More and more blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were still bright. Metal Wind. Holding his sword with both hands, Lu Xiaoyu used the result of the past half a year. It was his strongest killing move, a mid-tier Metal Wind fusion profound sword move. The golden sword wind was very tangible, and it swept toward Lu Wujian. Lu Wujian's brows twitched. This Lu Xiaoyu wasn't that strong half a year ago, but now his power was almost at Master Sky Sword's level. Not only did he receive nearly 100 moves from him, he had also developed an even stronger killing move. Without any hesitation, Lu Wujian also used his killing move, Thousand Mile Thread. Puchi! The golden sword winds collided against the line of sword energy. The golden sword winds were instantly sliced apart. However, the golden sword winds were seemingly endless, and a significant amount of the line of sword energy's power was whittled away. Shockwaves of gold and white intersected as a result, which assailed the two cultivators. Spurting out a large mouthful of blood, Lu Xiaoyu finally couldn't hold on any longer, and his body was sent flying. As for Lu Wujian, he also retreated dozens of steps. This was the first time he had been forced back. Lu Xiaoyu lost as well. Even though he lost, it's still a glorious defeat. Half a year ago, Lu Xiaoyu couldn't even receive 10 sword strikes from Lu Wujian. But now, he has received 100, and his power has increased by nearly half. MHM, Lu Xiaoyu must know that he can't win, and he just wants to test his strength. Not being able to receive 10 sword strikes was very humiliating, but receiving 100 sword strikes was completely different. Although Lu Wujian didn't seem to be going all out, letting out a breath, Yi Chun said, "It's my turn. Don't be careless." Morong Qingcheng reminded Yi Chun. "I know. With his strength, I can't afford to be careless." Facing the wind, Yi Chen's sword aura burst out, spreading out like the night, covering the entire Nine-Dragon Mountain and Nine-Dragon Lake. Without needing any reminder, everyone's attention was drawn over. In everyone's eyes, the world seemed to have disappeared, and only Yi Chen remained. The world, they felt, was deathly silent. Those who were closer to Yi Chen discovered that they couldn't even speak. It was like they had fallen into a nightmare. They could think, but they couldn't move their bodies. What a terrifying sword intent. Bai Wuxue took a deep breath, his eyes filled with shock. Dugaju was also somewhat shocked. His hands and feet trembled in excitement. This was a feeling that no one else could give him. Such nervousness, such anticipation. Chapter 708. Because Yi Chen's sword intent was pointed in Lu Wujian's direction, the multicolor-robed woman was also affected. She retreated several steps and said with a pale face, "Impossible." She had never seen a sword intent of this level. Compared to Yi Chen's, even Lu Wujian was somewhat inferior, which was hard for her to accept. Lu Wujian, now you should know why I don't want to fight with you. You don't have the qualifications to look down on Yi Chen. Duguju's eyes blossomed with a strange splendor as he inwardly said. The long sword at his waist trembled unceasingly, as if ready to be unsheathed at any moment. Lu Wujian's eyes narrowed into slits, and an ice-cold light flowed within. He could feel a heavy threat from Yi Chen's body. This threat was no longer self-defined, but an instinctive one. If even his body could feel the threat, one could easily imagine how powerful Yi Chen was. Very good. This is the first time I, Lu Wujian, have underestimated someone. Indeed, I've underestimated you. But so what? You'll still lose to me. Pressing his left hand on the tip of the sword hilt, Lu Wujian straightened his back. A swift and fierce sword intent pierced through the sky, colliding with Yi Chen's sword intent. Countless fine explosions resounded in the void, and a chaotic storm appeared out of nowhere, spreading in all directions. Blood-curdling screams resounded one after another. The people nearby felt as if their heads were about to split open as they frantically retreated, avoiding the assault of the Willstorm. Willstorm, retreat. This is a clash of king-level wills. Someone in the crowd cried out in alarm. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was at the 5th step, and its might was equivalent to an ordinary 6-step sword intent. Lu Wujian's sword intent was also at the 5th step, but not an ordinary one. It was a relatively rare firmament sword intent. Although it couldn't compare to the destruction sword intent, it was much more powerful. The clash of their sword intents was equivalent to the clash of two life and death kings. one could easily imagine the destructive power produced. Of course, although the two sword intents were powerful, they were not life and death kings after all. Their usage of sword intents was much weaker than life and death kings and belonged to the bottom tier. However, the clash of king-level sword intents was not ordinary after all. If one did not retreat, one's soul might be crushed by the will storm and die miserably on the spot. The sword intent itself didn't have any color, but it did when used on the outside world. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was filled with a devouring black color, without a trace of brilliance. Lu Wujian's firmament sword intent was white with a hint of blue. It was neither strong nor weak, gentle, yet carrying a sharp aura. The two sword intents clashed, causing the black and white to clash in the sky above the Nine-Dragon Mountain. The black was a bit stronger, suppressing the white and occupying a large area, while the white held its ground and waited for an opportunity to counterattack. Wave slash. With the sword intent suppressed, Lu Wujian's Zhen Yuan gushed out of his body and poured into the longsword in his hand. The longsword let out a long, ringing sound and slashed toward Yi Chen like a deep white ocean wave. Swoosh! The black and white were torn apart, and a mark pierced through the two colors, rushing straight toward Yi Chen on the mountain peak. Pulling out the Thunder Disaster Sword, Yi Chen waved it in the air. The black sword chi was like a crack in the void, swallowing half of the wave-shaped sword chi, while the other half was also annihilated, dissipating into nothingness. Impressive, but it's still not enough. Lu Wujian laughed loudly. Dressed in a long robe, his body turned into a long rainbow, arriving in an instant. He launched hundreds of sword attacks at Yi Chen in a row. Each sword attack was unbelievably fast, as if one person had turned into hundreds of people, waving their swords at the same time, aiming straight at Yi Chen's vitals. Too fast. It's twice as fast as the battle with Lu Xiaoyu. Can a human really have such a powerful sword speed? West Ocean Sword Master is not called that for nothing. This is a battle between sword masters. Look, Yi Chen's sword art is also very fast. His hand and sword have already disappeared, leaving only sword chi. Amidst the discussions of the crowd, Yi Chen rushed toward Lu Wujian, waving his Thunder Disaster Sword to the extreme, blocking Lu Wujian's attacks one after another. Not only that, although Yi Chen was in the countercurrent, his counterattack had even caused the countercurrent to stagnate, standing on equal footing. Ding, 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 ding. If the battle between Dugaju and Gulai was said to have reached a limit in both speed and power, then the battle between Lu Wujian and Yi Chen was said to have both surpassed that limit and continue to rise, seeming to be endless. Because their speed was too fast and their swords were also fast, their figures didn't disappear. On the contrary, they moved in a different direction. In the sky, the figures of the two were everywhere. From 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80. 100 Yi Chens and 100 Lu Wujians were exchanging blows in different postures. Some raised their swords against each other, some chased each other, some competed in exquisite sword arts, and some fought in the air, causing chi energies to explode. Far away from the Nine-Dragon Lake, the crowd was dumbfounded, all of them dumbfounded. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that there would be someone who could use sword arts to such an outrageous level. And it was not one, but two. Lu Wujian's strength was beyond their imagination. Yi Chen's strength also shocked them once again. The West Ocean Sword Master versus the continent's Sword Master. This was a battle between sword masters, rarely seen in 100 years. Moving sea sword chi. A small part of Lu Wujian's figure disappeared, and a clear figure condensed, waving a dark white sword chi that swept through the sky and earth. Puff, 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 puff. Dozens of Yi Chen's figures were broken, like a rag wiping on a dusty glass, instantly clearing a large area. Infinite golden ripples. Dark golden ripples burst out, blooming in circles. Wherever Yi Chen's figure moved, the Lu Wujian would be destroyed. With Yi Chen as the center, the area within a radius of several thousand meters became a world of ripples, and Yi Chen was the master of this world. The last figure was destroyed, and Lu Wujin's real body rushed towards Yi Chun, his long robe fluttering in the wind, and he shouted, "Retreat!" It was still the moving sea sword Qi, but this time it turned the sky above Nine Dragon Lake into an ocean. Now, this ocean was rolling, and it carried a terrifying power and momentum, immediately swallowing the ripple world around Yi Chun. This moving sea sword Qi is too majestic, and there's no way to deal with it. I wonder how Yi Chun is going to deal with it. Everyone could see that Lu Wujian was going all out, and the power of the moving sea sword Qi was not something that Lu Xiaoyu could compare to. With one sword, the ocean rolled, and the mountains moved, and the power was terrifying. When a person faced the entire ocean, it was inevitable that they would feel small. Break! A black pillar of sword Qi shot out from the ocean, dyeing the entire ocean a dark white. Countless cracks appeared on the edges, making it look like a gigantic, glowing body. However, the light that came from within was black, and a destructive aura wantonly emanated from it. Rumble! A sky-shaking sound rang out, and Yi Chun flew out. He actually broke my all-out moving sea sword Qi. Lu Wujian was slightly surprised. Be it the battle with Zhong Sky Sword or Lu Xiaoyu, he had never been serious. If one move didn't work, he would change to another. But when he fought with Yi Chun, he couldn't casually change his moves. His trump card should be used on the edge of the blade, and he wouldn't use it a second time. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Yi Chun's strength. Back when Yi Chun fought with Zhong Sky Sword, his destruction sword intent hadn't reached the 5th step. With the 5th step sword intent, Yi Chun didn't even need the Imperial Sword Art to defeat Zhong Sky Sword. Moreover, although this moving sea sword Qi had a majestic momentum, it didn't have much use against Yi Chun. The wider the attack range, the more openings there would be. Even if there were no openings, he would still be able to create one. In the eyes of Lu Xiaoyu, the moving sea sword Qi was unbelievably powerful, but in the eyes of Yi Chun, it was nothing. Thunder Devour. After successfully escaping, Yi Chun didn't hesitate at all as he slashed at Lu Wujian. A black thunderball tore through the sky, rushing over with a destructive aura. Not good. Lu Wujian could tell how terrifying this move was, so he executed the moving sea sword Qi again. Bang! The thunderball exploded, and the moving sea sword Qi was shattered. Lu Wujian was forced back dozens of steps, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Yi Chun chased after him. One after another, black thunderballs flew across the sky like a group of mobile cannons, burning brightly. Lu Wujian retreated again and again, gradually being suppressed. The first rank of the Master Warrior ranking is still his this year. Bai Wuxue carefully watched the two's battle and analyzed the information from the previous battle between Lu Wujian and Lu Xiaoyu. He came to a shocking conclusion. Yi Chun's strength was at least twice that of Lu Xiaoyu. This was probably the first time that Lu Wujian, who was known as the Western Ocean Swordmaster, had been suppressed by someone. Swordmaster Yi Chun could no longer be described as strong. To be more precise, he was dominating the entire situation. The other spectators felt their blood boiling as well. The strength that Yi Chun had erupted with far surpassed their expectations. Not only had he fought with Lu Wujian until now, but he had also gradually gained the initiative. Humph! Brother Lu has not even revealed his trump card yet. Open your eyes wide and watch. The multicolor-clothed woman's face was filled with disdain. Swordmaster Yi Chun is indeed very strong, ridiculously strong. Unfortunately, your opponent is Lu Wujian. Very few people know how terrifying he is. Gulai had only suffered some light injuries, nothing serious. Now, he stood beside the colorful robed woman and watched the battle between the two. A thousandly thread. Finally, Lu Wujian used his killing move, an all-out killing move. The deep white sword Qi condensed into a line and flashed in the air. Immediately, several thunderballs were cut apart. Although the broken thunderballs did not lose their momentum and continued to shoot over, they were much weaker. Lu Wujian blocked and broke them with his sword. After stabilizing the situation, Lu Wujian held his breath and swept his sword diagonally. The condensed sword chi passed through the gaps and headed for Yichun. If this sword strike landed, even Chu Zhongtian would be severely injured and on the verge of death. Its attack power and momentum were terrifying. Thunder Devour, condense. Yichun did not panic. He held the sword with both hands and slashed out with a heavy and swift posture. Crack! Black thunder and lightning gathered at the tip of the sword and shot out, forming a thunderball. The thunderball's shape changed from a perfect circle to an oval, and from an oval to an oblate. It was like a shuttle, a black ball of light. The compressed thunderball was so fast that it blurred Yi Chen's vision. It clashed with the sword chi that had been condensed into a line. With a cracking sound, the deep white sword chi was cut in half. It brushed past Yi Chen's body and pierced through the two mountains behind him, going deep into the ground. And the black ball of light turned into a beam of light and rushed toward Lu Wujian. The power of the beam of light decreased a lot, but Lu Wujian still took a few steps back, his chi and blood fluctuating. Not bad at all. This is the first time I've met someone who can be evenly matched with me. You're the first. Unfortunately, my strength is not something you can imagine. Meeting me is your misfortune, and also the beginning of your failure. Lu Wujian's expression was calm, but his eyes became extremely sharp. When he looked at them, they felt like there were countless swords stabbing into their eyes. Chapter 709. This is what I wanted to say to you as well. Yichun squinted his eyes slightly. As he opened and closed his eyes, a bright light condensed into a line, looking like two silver beams of light. A wild wind blew, causing his black hair to dance in the air like clouds. Interesting. Yichun was not only the first powerful opponent Lu Wujian had ever met, but also the first one to look down on him. This made him so angry that he started laughing instead, feeling that he was being looked down upon. Since you are so confident, then I will beat you until you lose your confidence. I, Lu Wujian, have roamed the West Ocean for 10 years without losing once. Today, I will not lose either. The one who will lose will be you. Putting the long sword back into its scabbard, Lu Wujian's body slightly leaned forward. His right hand was placed on the sword hilt, and his sword aura was condensed. Is that so? You will be disappointed. The Thunder Disaster sword pointed downwards, and strands of black sword light shot out from its tip. Yichen's posture did not change as he looked straight at Lu Wujian. Whale breaking water, crazy kill. When the sword aura had accumulated to its peak, the instant it would explode if it continued to accumulate, Lu Wujian made his move. Clang! A resplendent blue-white sword light illuminated the horizon, seeming like a boundless ocean. Amidst the clear and crystalline waves, a colossus broke out of the water. It was a huge whale, not condensed from Zhen Yuan, but sword chi. It was somewhat similar to Duguju's Fox of Despair. However, compared to Fox of Despair, this huge whale was even more tyrannical and frightening. With a biting, cold, killing intent, the huge whale leaped into the air, opened its mouth, and attempted to swallow Yichun. The spectating experts in Yichen's position were overwhelmed with shock. The huge whale opened its mouth, revealing a pitch-black darkness inside. It was incomparably huge, as if it was a black hole that was constantly expanding. It seemed as if it was going to swallow the heaven and earth in front of it. They couldn't help but subconsciously take a few steps back. If you want to swallow, I'll let you swallow. Raising the Thunder Disaster sword high above his head, Yichun held it with both of his hands. Streams of black electric currents gathered on the tip of the sword, and in the next second, a thunderball appeared out of nowhere, spinning at a high speed. In just a blink of an eye, the thunderball had expanded to a few meters in size, and no matter how much it was compressed, it could not shrink. Go! The Thunder Disaster sword slashed out with all its might, and a huge thunderball flew into the whale's mouth, entering its body through its throat. Gurgle! A muffled sound rang out, and the giant whale's momentum slowed down. Its body swelled unnaturally like an inflated balloon and continued to inflate. Boom! As its body swelled to its limit, the giant whale exploded into pieces. A black and white shockwave spread out in a ring shape, and a black and white mushroom cloud shot up into the sky, poking a huge hole in the sky. At that moment, Yi-chan felt like a nuclear bomb had exploded in front of him. His body was blown away by the shockwave, and, after a slight pause, he was blown backward like a piece of paper. Lu Wujin was not feeling good either. He did not expect Yi Chen's Thunder Devour to have so many changes. Before, it was compressing the Thunderball to increase its power, and now it was pouring in a huge amount of Zhen Yuan to increase its explosive power. Judging from the size of the Thunderball and its explosive power, the Thunder Profound contained in this move had exceeded the entry realm by quite a bit, at least 40%. Just the Thunderball's explosive power was huge, and the giant whale was an enclosed environment. The Thunderball's explosive power was unimaginable. Because of all these factors, the shockwave this time was unprecedentedly fierce. It was so fierce that it formed a ring-shaped circle, and all the power was gathered together. It wasn't a continuous shockwave. Creak! An unpleasant grinding sound came from the protective Zhen Yuan. Lu Wujian only felt his body go numb, and he was blown backward involuntarily. The scenery on both sides was getting further and further away from him, turning into a blur. Retreat again. The shockwave was too ferocious, forming a circular chi wave. Apart from a few people, the rest retreated several li in succession. Yi Chun and Lu Wujian's figures had already turned into two small dots. Fortunately, by circulating Zhen Yuan to their eyes, they could still see clearly. What a powerful shockwave! The mountain under their feet turned into ashes in an instant. Bai Wuxiwe and the rest leaped up and stood in the air, their protective Zhen Yuan flickering. Break! Gulai stood in front of the multicolor-robed woman, condensing a Zhen Yuan saber on his protective Zhen Yuan and splitting the shockwave in half. Even Brother Lu's whale breaking water was broken. The multicolor-robed woman could not understand what was going on. Gulai said with a solemn expression, "It's not the final moment yet, right? Brother Lu's strongest trump card has not been used yet." The multicolor-robed woman regained her confidence in Lu Wujian and stared at the center of the explosion without blinking. After flying for about 7 or 8 li, Yi Chun finally stopped. He squinted his eyes to prevent the bright light from hurting them. He should still have killing moves, worthy of being the West Ocean Swordmaster. Apart from not using Golden Hurricane or defensive sword art, Yi Chun had already gone all out. Lu Wujian was the strongest swordsman he had met so far, so he could not afford to be careless. "You can actually break my whale breaking water." Lu Wujian's calm expression turned grave. He had already realized that Yi Chun was not that easy to defeat. If he did not use all of his skills, he might not even be able to harm a single hair of his opponent. It could be said that Yi Chun was the biggest obstacle in his life. Either he tripped over the obstacle and fell to the ground, or he could step over it and continue forward. "I will not lose." Lu Wujian had never thought that he would lose, and it was the same this time. Roar! The sky-piercing cloudy sword intent increased crazily. An extremely powerful aura spread out from Lu Wujian's body, and his Zhen Yuan rose steadily. It seemed that he had used some secret technique to activate it, allowing him to exert a power far beyond his limit. Because the sword intent was too strong, and the cloudy sword intent was a sword intent with a relatively strong explosive power, it caused the aura outside Lu Wujian's body to condense into numerous illusory sword shadows. They were not man-made, but natural. In the blink of an eye, Lu Wujian was covered by the sword shadows, looking like a hedgehog with sword shadows. The extremely sharp sword aura scared a lot of people. Lu Wujian is about to go crazy. What a terrifying sword aura. This Lu Wujian's power is simply limitless. I wonder if Yi Chun can handle it. Look, Yi Chun is activating his sword intent as well. The crowd was first attracted by Lu Wujian, and then shifted their attention to Yi Chun. Yi Chun's destruction sword intent was even more powerful than Lu Wujian's cloudy sword intent. Once it was fully activated, the destructive aura was simply earth-shattering. Even the sky was dyed black. Above the sky, black lightning flashed endlessly. A huge black sword shadow condensed on Yi Chen's body. The sword shadow only released a bit of its sharpness, but it was already able to create a huge hole in the sky. Blood Sea Buddha. On the other side, Lu Wujian had already finished accumulating power. The surging aura around him caused the space around him to distort. Taking a step forward, Lu Wujian used every bit of strength in his body to swing his sword. As soon as the sword was unleashed, a bloody rain and a bloody sea spread out. Countless blood-colored sword shadows danced in the sky, turning the sky above the Nine-Dragon Lake into a bloody purgatory, covering Yi Chen. As he was increasing his sword intent, Yi Chen's cold eyes stared at Lu Wujian. He could see that Lu Wujian had not only comprehended the profound of wind and water, but also the extremely strange profound of blood. This Blood Sea Buddha was a combination of the profound of water and the profound of blood. Water and blood originally had something in common. Combining them, not only could the profound of water be improved, but it also allowed the profound of blood to be more powerful. It was a very overbearing, profound martial art. Gold Hurricane. The combination of the profound of blood and the profound of water was very powerful, but the combination of the profound of metal and water of Yi Chen was not weak either. Metal gave birth to water, and there was a similar relationship between them. Once the two were combined, the power would increase rapidly, creating a cycle. The Thunder Disaster sword shone with a dark golden luster as Yi Chen attacked with a horrifying destructive sword intent. Puchi. A dark golden ripple of light shot out. Within the ripple of light, the ripples pushed forward layer by layer, reaching the front. In the blink of an eye, its power had increased by leaps and bounds. It slammed into the blood-colored world, punching a hole in it and rushing in. Crackle. The blood-colored sword shadow and the ripple beam clashed together, shattering into pieces. On the surface of the Blood Sea, a deep sword mark was plowed out. The destructive sword intent filled the sword mark, continuously destroying the structure of the Blood Sea, causing huge waves to rise. The blood color gradually faded. Lu Wujian's face was cold and expressionless as he waved out another sword attack. The blood ocean covered the entire sky, and the sword shadows shot out everywhere. Break! Yi Chen did not waste any time. The Thunder Disaster sword danced again and again, shooting out beams of ripple beams, bombarding the layers of the blood world. Bang! 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 As the two of them fought, the sun and the moon dimmed, sand and pebbles flew everywhere. The violent blood-red sword wind and the black sword wind interweaved together, spinning around the two of them, colliding with each other. Eventually, they formed a tornado that was several miles thick, connecting the sky and the earth. In the center of the tornado, the two continued to attack each other, seeming as if they would not stop until one of them fell. Only one of them could walk out of here. Gulp! Among the spectators, there were people swallowing their saliva from time to time, releasing their nervous emotions. Watching the blood-colored light and black light in the tornado, as well as the dense lightning caused by the friction of energy, someone finally couldn't help but say, "Fuck, this is too exaggerated." They are both Sea of Soul Realm Master-level warriors, but this gap is too big. How is this a battle between two people? It looks like two Sea of Soul Realm armies fighting against each other. There is no way to resist at all. A battle between sword masters is indeed not something we can imagine. I wonder who among them will have the last laugh. As the battle continued, Yi Chen had already activated his dragon bone defense layer. A layer of white bone appeared on his skin, and his semi-extreme rank armor, the Muddy Sky armor, was also activated. Countless twisting blue symbols appeared on his protective Zhen Yuan, increasing its defensive power. Even so, he still did not feel good. The qi and blood in his body were boiling like boiling water. On the other side, Lu Wujian also had a semi-extreme rank armor. It was a blue and white plate armor, which was slightly different from Yi Chen's Muddy Sky armor. This plate armor was releasing cloud-shaped symbols, which stuck on his protective Jin Yuan like simple white clouds. Besides that, the necklace around his neck also released a dark blue light, forming a second layer of defense outside of his protective Jin Yuan. Pung, 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 pung. Chi waves continuously bombarded the dark blue light, bringing up circles of twisting ripples, which made Lu Wujian tremble from time to time. My Serene Ocean Necklace is also a semi-extreme rank artifact. With 2 layers of defense, it should be able to hold on. I would like to see how long you can last. At this moment, it was no longer a battle of strength but endurance. Whoever could not endure it first would lose. There was no other possibility. Chapter 710. This Lu Wujian actually has a semi-extreme grade accessory. Yin Fengfeng was a bit astonished. Among artifacts, the value of defensive artifacts was generally 2 times that of offensive artifacts, while accessory artifacts were 3 times that of offensive artifacts. The reason why they were so expensive wasn't because of how good they were. In fact, the aid they could provide was limited and couldn't compare to defensive and offensive artifacts. However, they were too rare, and the rarer they were, the more valuable they were. Moreover, one could only wear a single defensive artifact and hold 1 or 2 offensive artifacts. Any more would be a waste. However, wearing accessories could still increase one's battle power, such as necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, and so on. Without any exaggeration, if an ordinary CE of Soul Master were to wear a full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts, hold a semi-extreme grade offensive artifact, and have a complete set of accessory artifacts, all of which were of semi-extreme grade, then even 2 Yi Chins wouldn't be able to do anything to the opponent unless the opponent's Jin Yuan was exhausted. Of course, this was impossible. A full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts was something that even a 4th grade sect, the Void Sect, couldn't collect. Moreover, a complete set of semi-extreme grade accessory artifacts was even more difficult than a full set of defensive artifacts. Being able to produce 1 or 2 was already quite amazing. Only in the ancient and medieval eras, when all kinds of artifact refining methods had not been lost, could such a thing happen. Lu Wujian's strength was already unpredictable, and adding a semi-extreme grade accessory, his defense had increased by a large margin. If this continued, Yichen would very likely lose. The situation is not good. Not to mention Lu Wujian's sword master level strength. He even has a semi-extreme grade accessory. How can he compete? Although the defense of a semi-extreme grade necklace is not as good as a semi-extreme grade armor, it's at least 60 to 70% effective. Could it be that Yichen will really lose? Everyone's face revealed a worried expression. Contrary to everyone else, the multicolor-robed woman revealed a joyous expression. So what if he's the continent's sword sect? He still has to make way for our West Ocean sword sect. Bang, bang, bang. In the tornado, the two had already exchanged over 100 moves, each with their full strength. For a moment, the earth shook and the sky turned dark. Yi Chun, admit defeat. You can't defeat me. Lu Wujian was very confident. In terms of defense, he had 2 layers. In terms of cultivation base, he was already at peak level late C of Soul's Realm at the age of 32. His Jin Yuan was much more abundant than Yi Chen's. Therefore, even if Yi Chun could endure the continuous attacks, his Jin Yuan would be exhausted, and he would lose all of his battle power. The battle hasn't ended yet, so why should I admit defeat? Lu Wujian had 2 layers of defense, and so did Yi Chun. Although the Dragonbone defense layer was not as powerful as a semi-extreme rank accessory, it was still very powerful. It had helped Yi Chun to offset a lot of the power and saved him from getting hurt. You'll give up sooner or later. Lu Wujian secretly increased his strength, and his true essence flowed like water. The pressure on Yi Chun increased greatly, and he inwardly creased his brows. In terms of endurance, he naturally couldn't compete with Lu Wujian. In any case, the latter had a cultivation base of peak late C of Soul's Realm, and his Jin Yuan was 20 to 30% more vigorous than his. Even if the consumption was huge, he should still have 10% Jin Yuan left. blood-severing ghost finger has more or less reached 20% maturity. Let's cut off a portion of his blood first. Waving the Thunder Disaster Sword with his right hand, Yi Chun released a ripple of light while his left hand slashed toward Lu Wujian. Like a judge's pen, he could judge a person's life and death. It possessed an indescribable boldness, causing others to feel indescribably frightened and panicky. Lu Wujian thought that Yi Chun was going to use finger arts to attack him. He disdainfully smiled and didn't take any measures. With 2 layers of defense, he didn't need to worry at all. However, when Yi Chun's sword finger slashed down, Lu Wujian's expression changed. For some reason, a small portion of his qi and blood had disappeared, as if it had evaporated. This small portion was only 1,000th of his qi and blood. It wasn't much, but anyone would feel uneasy if they discovered that a small portion of their qi and blood had mysteriously disappeared. What kind of finger art is this? Lu Wujian secretly raised his guard. The effect is not bad. This time, I'll be a bit more ruthless. Previously, it was just a test, so Yi Chun didn't use his full strength. Cut. Condensing Zhun Yuan on his sword finger, Yi Chun slashed toward his opponent again. Different from last time, as Yi Chun's sword finger slashed out, a withered white palm shadow appeared within Lu Wujian's protective Zhun Yuan. The white palm reached into Lu Wujian's body and grabbed out a bloodlight. It then clenched its fist, and the bloodlight dissipated into nothingness. How dare you cut off my blood and qi? Lu Wujian roared. He was shocked and angry at the same time. His blood and qi had suddenly been reduced by 5%. What kind of concept was this? Only when one was in his best condition could he use his peak battle power. Losing 5% of his blood and qi meant that his condition had instantly deteriorated, and his explosive power had dropped by a level. The people watching the battle exchanged glances. They could also tell that Yi Chun had used a horrifying finger art. It had forcibly cut off a part of Lu Wujian's blood and qi, and used another method to attack Lu Wujian. This is unbelievable. Not to mention Lu Wujian. Even Yi Chun himself had not expected that his blood-severing ghost finger could display such power, cutting off 5% of his opponent's blood and qi. Moreover, that withered white palm shadow was filled with a deathly aura, which was completely out of place in this world. Of course, the blood-severing ghost finger also depended on who it was used on. If it was used on a body-refining expert like Wei Longtao, it would be good if it could cut off 1,000th of his blood and qi. This was not only because Wei Longtao had a lot of blood and qi, but also because of the high density of blood and qi of body-refining experts. Therefore, the blood-severing ghost finger would not be able to cut off too much blood and qi. It would be like cutting an iron board with a small knife. Continue to cut for me. After tasting the sweetness brought by the blood-severing ghost finger, Yi Chun was happy to save some of his strength. His left sword finger slashed in the air, and the withered white palm shadow appeared in Lu Wujian's protective Zhun Yuan for the second time. Get the hell out of here! Lu Wujian's sky sword intent exploded, attacking the white palm shadow wave after wave. The white palm shadow could ignore Zhun Yuan, but it could not ignore the sword intent. Its speed was reduced by a lot all of a sudden. Just as it took out a small portion of blood and qi from Lu Wujian's body, it was washed away by the sword intent, disappearing from Lu Wujian's sight along with the blood and qi. This time, the blood-severing ghost finger had only taken out 1% of the blood and qi, which was much worse than the last time. It turns out that the blood-severing ghost finger consumes soul power as well. Yi Chun suddenly realized that losing a portion of his soul power did not attract his attention at all. It was as if it had merged into the blood-severing ghost finger in a way that he could not understand. Only then did it have all sorts of miraculous effects, such as stealing the enemy's blood and qi out of thin air. Yi Chun, you will pay for this. With half of his blood and qi gone, Lu Wujian was extremely furious. He clenched his left hand into a fist, which was shining with a golden light, and threw out a punch towards Yi Chun. Boom! This punch even caused the tornado to show signs of collapsing. The fist might was vast and mighty. It's a secret art. Yi Chun could tell with a single glance that the fist art Lu Wujian had performed was not a profound sense martial art, but a secret art. It was a super powerful art that could compress the fist power by several times or even 10 times. Void-shattering finger. The sword fingers on his left hand changed as he reached out his index finger. Yi-chan pointed out his finger towards that golden fist, which was shining with a golden light. It was the void-shattering finger that he rarely used. However, this void-shattering finger had obviously reached completion, reaching 100%. Plus, it was the third movement of the void-shattering finger, which was much more powerful than the second movement of Chu Zhongtian's void-shattering finger. The cyan finger power ignored the spatial distance and clashed with the golden fist power. Pop! At the beginning of the clash, it should be the golden fist power that had the upper hand. However, the void-shattering finger was a space-profound martial art, which was good at assimilating energy. Although the golden fist power had suppressed it, a lot of its power had been assimilated, and it was gradually weakened. Under this kind of situation, the cyan finger power and the golden fist power had both perished. Up until now, both of them had almost used all of their trump cards, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Although Yi Chen's blood-severing ghost finger was powerful, it consumed a lot of soul power, so it could not be used frequently. Plus, Lu Wujian's Sky Sword Intent had reached rank 5. If he was prepared, the effect of the blood-severing ghost finger would be minimal. Unless he could improve it further, it would not have much of an effect. Knowing that other attacks would not be able to do anything to the other, the two continued to exchange attacks. The situation had instantly reached its climax. The roaring tornado had sucked up all the water in the Nine-Dragon Lake, bringing it up into the sky before falling down again, causing a heavy rain to fall from the Nine-Dragon Mountain. I don't believe that you can block many of my attacks. Gnashing his teeth, Lu Wujian dashed towards Yi Chun, shortening the distance between them and increasing the effect of his attacks. Unexpectedly, Yi Chun did not choose to keep the distance. Instead, he dashed towards his opponent, waving his sword over and over again. It's close combat now. I'm afraid the winner will be decided soon. Everyone held their breaths. Boom, boom, boom. As the distance got closer, the effect of the attacks was not just a little bit stronger, but doubled or tripled. Both of their defenses seemed to be unable to handle it, and their blood and qi started to churn. Lose. Lu Wujian used all of his power and threw out a sword attack. A blood-colored ocean and endless blood-colored sword shadows attacked towards Yi Chun. Yi Chen's gold hurricane was not as powerful as his opponent's, but it was much more condensed. At such a close distance, the ripple of light pierced through the blood-colored world and hit Lu Wujian's protective Jinyuan. On the other hand, he had also been hit by the blood-colored sword shadows countless times. With a muffled snort, both of them were blown back for miles. Again, the two of them did not care about anything else as they continued to attack without any defense. They only hoped that their attacks could land on their opponent's body. As for whether they would be hit or not, it did not matter at all. Boom! Within a blink of an eye, Lu Wujian had been hit by 3 sword attacks, while Yi Chun had been hit by 2. Lu Wujian let out a fishy smell from his throat, while Yi Chun's face had turned a lot paler. Although Lu Wujian's defense was very high, he could not handle countless attacks. However, Yi Chun was able to handle his attacks, which surprised him greatly. However, when he saw the white bone layer on Yi Chun's palm, he realized that the latter must have used some kind of secret art to increase his physical defense. Let's see how long you can last. Lu Wujian continued to fight with Yi Chun. However, as time passed, Lu Wujian was horrified to discover that he was starting to feel like he couldn't hold on much longer. On the other hand, Yi Chun was still as brave as ever. It was as if the countless small injuries he had accumulated didn't affect him in the slightest, and had long since healed. How is this possible? Lu Wujian could not understand it at all. As for the people who were watching the battle, they were already numb to it. Chapter 711. Chu Zhongtian was one of them. The reason he was able to notice this detail was mainly because of his high defense. Therefore, he paid a lot of attention to it. However, he realized that no matter if it was Lu Wujian or Yi Chun, their endurance was way beyond his. Lu Wujian was still fine, since he had a semi-extreme rank armor and accessories, and his cultivation base was also at peak level late Sea of Souls realm. His protective Jinyuan was extremely powerful, but Yichen only had a semi-extreme rank armor, and his cultivation base was also at peak level mid Sea of Souls realm. Even if he had a secret art to increase his defense should still be weaker than Lu Wujian's. However, judging from the current situation, Yi Chen's endurance was way beyond Lu Wujian's. Lu Wujian was almost at his limit, while Yi Chen was still as powerful as ever. Even if I have a semi-extreme rank armor, I don't think I can win against him. For the school to be able to get a semi-extreme rank armor for Chu Zhongtian, it had already cost a lot of manpower and resources. Semi-extreme rank armor was extremely rare, and one might not be able to buy it even if one had spirit stones. Only those super auctions with countless treasures would have a chance. Therefore, the inner armor Chu Zhongtian was wearing was only atop of the upper rank armor. If he had a semi-extreme rank armor, Gulai would not have been able to wound him at all. Although it was only a light wound, it would not be a big deal. However, even if he had a semi-extreme rank armor and had the same power as Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian did not have the confidence to exchange hundreds of attacks with Yi Chen. Lu Wujian was an example. Yi Chen's trump cards were far more than what they showed on the surface. If one thought that Yi Chen only had power, then one would be wrong. His scariness was in all aspects, and he had no weakness at all. If he wanted to attack, he had it, and if he wanted to defend, he had it. Even his recovery ability was a level higher than others. The more Lu Wujian fought, the more frightened and desperate he became. Yi Chen's ferocious performance was not fake. It could be seen from his abundant essence qi. On the other hand, Lu Wujian had used up a lot of his essence qi. His whole body was aching, and even his bones were groaning. I can't go on like this. He still has at least 30% Zhenyuan left. If he takes some Zhenyuan replenishing pellets, it would not be a problem for him to recover to 40%. I cannot outlast him. Lu Wujian's expression was gloomy as he thought to himself. Unfortunately, he had still underestimated Yi Chen. Yi Chen had a whole bottle of semi-extreme rank pellets on him, which were enough to recover his Zhenyuan to 100%. Of course, one pellet would be one less, and Yi Chen would not use them on Lu Wujian. After all, he still had a Dragon God Medal, which stored 30% of his Zhenyuan, which would allow him to recover to 60%. He did not need to worry about running out of Zhenyuan at all. Boom! After another exchange, Lu Wujian felt a sweetness in his throat. He could not help but spurt out a mouthful of blood, but he forcefully suppressed it. Increase the distance. Lu Wujian did not want to exchange another attack with Yi Chen at such a close distance. He was sure that he would definitely spurt out blood and suffer from severe injuries. Shoo! As his figure turned, Lu Wujian retreated in a curve. Each time he reached a turning point, he would leave behind a clear human figure. However, this figure would not even last for a second before it would be pierced through by the light ripple, disappearing into thin air. It would almost injure Lu Wujian's body. Such a marvelous movement art. Yi Chen could tell that Lu Wujian would be able to increase his speed at each turning point and escape first, causing his attack to miss. This way, there was no pattern at all, unless he could determine the opponent's retreating route and speed. However, even if he could, it would be useless since his attack speed would only be slightly faster than the opponent's retreating speed, and he would not be able to catch it unless he used his defensive sword art. Let's see what's going on first. To be honest, Yi Chen did not want to expose his defensive sword art until the last moment. Lu Wujian was the only one who could be evenly matched with him, which was something that even Dugu Ju could not compare with. Yi Chen had a premonition that his opponent might have a trump card that he would not expose easily, just like him. Yi Chen's guess was right. Lu Wujian did have a trump card, but he would not use it unless it was the most crucial moment. Firstly, there was no opponent worthy of him using his trump card. Secondly, once his trump card was exposed, it would no longer be a trump card. All his strength would be deduced by others, and there would be no secrets to speak of. This was not what Lu Wujian wanted to see. But now he had no choice but to use his trump card. Yi Chen's strength was beyond his expectations. If he continued to fight, the possibility of him losing was very high. He could not tolerate losing to Yi Chen. Therefore, he had to expose his trump card. There was no other choice. After retreating for about 10 miles, Lu Wujian stopped and stood steadily at the edge of the hurricane. Seeing that Yi Chun did not chase after him, Lu Wujian took a few rapid breaths, suppressing his boiling qi and blood and chaotic Jinyuan. Yi Chun, you should be honored. You're the first person in many years who could force me to use my strongest trump card. No one else is worthy. Lu Wujian said in shock. What? Lu Wujian still has a trump card? Is he going to let us live? This is too exaggerated. The previous battles were already earth-shattering. Now that he has used his strongest trump card, it would be even worse. This time, Yi Chun is in danger. His trump card is not as good as his. When two people with similar strength could not decide the winner, they could only use their trump cards to decide the winner. It could be said that the trump card was every warrior's last resort, and they could not afford to lose it. This was also the reason why they would not easily expose their trump cards. Once they were exposed, there would be no more secrets left. Lu Wujian still has a trump card. Does Yi Chun have a trump card? Could it be the defensive sword art? Situ Hao looked at Yi Chun. It's not possible. Even if Yi Chun had trained the defensive sword art to the 3rd level, it would not be that powerful. His previous strength had already surpassed the 3rd level of the defensive sword art. Unless he could train to the legendary 72 simultaneous swords realm, but the time is too short. Within 2 years, it would be impossible for him to train to the 72 simultaneous swords realm. In history, that legendary swordsman who had reached this realm had spent dozens of years to do so. What would he do in 2 years? He subconsciously thought that Yi Chun's trump card was the defensive sword art. But after thinking about it, he felt that the 3rd level of the defensive sword art was not very useful. The two's battle strength was too high, and the defensive sword art was not useful at all. You should be honored that you could last until now. Next, I will use my trump card to fight against yours. With Lu Wujian's current strength, he naturally could not force Yi Chun to use the defensive sword art. However, once the opponent showed his trump card, Yi Chun would have to use it. He did not think that the opponent's trump card was not threatening at all. It might have the power to wound him badly. Yi Chun also has a trump card? Everyone was dumbfounded, and they could not say a word. No matter who won or lost, everyone was convinced by Yi Chun. The battle strength that Yi Chun had shown was definitely at the level of a swordmaster. It could be said that some people had doubted Yi Chun's title of swordmaster before. After all, it was made up by the knowledge pavilion, and it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. But now, they did not doubt it at all. On the contrary, if someone doubted it, they would definitely refute it. The title of swordmaster in the continent belonged to Yi Chun. Phew! Dugu Ju let out a long breath, and his tense nerves relaxed. I'm not a match for them now. There's no need to fight. Not knowing that the two still had trump cards, although Dugu Ju did not think that he would win, he still had a chance. Yi Chun, do not disappoint me. Between Lu Wujian and Yi Chun, Dugu Ju would naturally lean towards Yi Chun. After all, Yi Chun was also a sword artist of the continent, while Lu Wujian was from the West Ocean. The purpose of this trip was to beat all of the martial geniuses of the continent and look down on all of them. Lu Wujian's expression changed, and he looked serious again. All right, I did not expect that you would be like me, still having trump cards. But once I use my secret sword, even I will not be able to control myself. By then, I might kill you. Don't blame me for being cruel. Lu Wujian was not lying. He indeed could not control his secret sword completely. Most importantly, Yi Chun was too powerful. He was afraid that if he held back, he might lose. Don't worry. Once I use my defensive sword spell, I might be able to kill you as well. Let's fight with everything we have. Yi Chun put away his Thunder Disaster sword, and there was no sword in his hands. Is it really the defensive sword spell? Sidu Hao's eyes were wide open as he stared at Yi Chun. He would like to see how different Yi Chun's defensive sword spell was from his. The two top sword masters stood in the air, facing each other. Outside, the tornado was still roaring. One was quiet, while the other was moving. The whole world seemed to have stopped. Boom! Boom! The two rushed toward each other at the same time. That horrifying chi explosion was something that even the tornado could not cover up. Secret Sword, 3 Sky, Sword Chi. Defensive Sword Spell, 3 Sword Attacks. It was unknown if it was a coincidence, but the two's super powerful killing attacks were all related to the word 3. Lu Wujian's 3 Sky Sword Chi was 3 different colored sword chi: green, blue, and red. Each of them contained a different profound. The green sword chi contained the profound of wind, the blue one contained the profound of water, and the red one contained the profound of blood. Do not look down on these 3 sword chi, as they were not only profound martial arts, but also secret arts. Normally, secret arts would not contain pure profound. Once they did, their power would increase exponentially. The 3 different colored sword chi attacked toward Yi Chun, full of killing power. At the same time, the gold sword on Yi Chen's back had also taken out of its scabbard. It shook in the air and split into 2 Zhen Yuan gold swords. 3 gold swords shot out toward the 3 sword chi. Pooh! Pooh! The green sword chi and the red sword chi exploded and were shattered by the Zhen Yuan gold sword. The blue sword chi in the middle could not even withstand a single attack from the original gold sword. It turned into a wisp of blue smoke and disappeared without even making a sound. What? Not good. Lu Wujian's eyes popped out. The 3 Sky Sword Chi that he had been so confident in had been destroyed by Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks. How could he not be shocked? Without any other thoughts, Lu Wujian's next thought was to focus on defense. He did not believe that his 2 layers of defense would not be able to block out the 3 sword attacks that had been weakened by a lot. Lu Wujian's 2 layers of defense were indeed extremely powerful. After breaking through the semi-extreme rank accessories dark blue layer, the Zhen Yuan gold sword disappeared. However, the original gold sword's power was 3 times that of the Zhen Yuan gold sword, which was way more powerful. Swoosh! The first layer of defense had been pierced through, and so had the second layer. The original gold sword turned into a beam of gold light, shooting toward Lu Wujian's neck. At the moment of life and death, Lu Wujian's neck twisted, and the gold sword brushed past it without touching him at all. But in the next second, a huge amount of blood poured out his neck. His main artery had been cut open by the sword chi, and the blood would not stop flowing out. Yi Chen's defensive sword spell had already reached beyond the sea of Soul's realm. Chapter 712. The gold light flashed, and blood shot out like a fountain. It was breathtaking, and the killing intent was overwhelming. Yi Chen's 3 sword attack had sent chills down everyone's spines. Lu Wujian's 3 Sky Sword Chi was already powerful enough to kill most of the top master level warriors within seconds. Even Dugu Ju would be severely wounded if he were to fight against it. However, the 3 Sky Sword Chi was even more powerful. Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks were way more powerful than the 3 Sky Sword Chi. With just one touch, Lu Wujian had been wounded like never before. Gu Lai and the lady in colorful clothes were shocked. From the beginning to the end, they had never thought that Lu Wujian would lose. It was hard for them to accept this. It's impossible. I have also reached the realm of 3 sword attacks. Why is there such a huge difference? Situ Hao's eyeballs popped out. Without using his sword intent, Situ Hao thought that Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks would not be that much more powerful than his. Perhaps, Yi Chen might not even be as skilled as him. However, right now, Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks had thrown him dozens of streets away. Even if his opponent's sword intent was way more powerful than his, it should not be this powerful. Soul power? Yes, it was soul power. Situ Hao suddenly realized that Yi Chen must be a soul power warrior. If Chu Zhongtian was the most powerful body, then Yi Chen might be the most powerful soul. Otherwise, there would be no other explanation for the horrifying defensive sword spell. The defensive sword spell required the control of soul power. Smiling bitterly, Situ Hao suddenly felt a bit regretful. No wonder his opponent was willing to exchange the defensive sword spell with him. It turned out that he was a soul power warrior. For soul power warriors, the defensive sword spell was created for them, which made it invaluable. However, after thinking about it for a while, Situ Hao felt better. So what if he did not give the defensive sword spell to Yi Chun? It would still be hard for him to catch up to him. If that was the case, he might as well enjoy it. At least he had gotten 6 dragon blood plants, which had increased his strength by 300,000 pounds. He now had the same power as a body-training warrior. Besides that, the spiritual sword had also helped him understand the fast profound, which would be very useful for his future growth. Lu Wujian lost. So it turns out that Yi Chen's last ace card is the same as Situ Hao's, the defensive sword art. A powerful warrior is indeed a powerful warrior. Although the defensive sword art in Situ Hao's hands is also powerful, it is still not as powerful as Yi Chen's. Yi Chun is indeed a sword master. Whatever it is in his hands, it will explode with a bright light. That's for sure. Looking back at Yi Chen's path of advancement, it was absolutely astonishing. He overcame all obstacles along the way, won every battle, and never suffered a single defeat until he reached the top. Such a terrifying speed of improvement is probably rare even in the early period of the Near Ancient Era. After the exclamation, everyone had already regarded Yi Chun as a legendary figure. Chi chi chi. Blood was still pouring out of the wound on Lu Wujian's neck. A lot of people were wondering if he would die at this rate. Of course, if it were an ordinary martial artist, he would have died long ago. However, after cultivating to the Sea of Soul Realm and condensing a spirit body, the blood density of an ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert was many times higher than an ordinary martial artist. Without any exaggeration, the blood of an ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert could fill several water jars, not to mention an expert like Lu Wujian. Bastard! With a deathly pale complexion, Lu Wujian swiped his neck with his left hand, immediately closing the wound. However, the next moment, it split open again, and blood continued to spurt out. The cause of all this was the remnant sword chi of the golden sword. This sword chi contained the destruction sword intent, which didn't dissipate for a long time. It seemed as if it wouldn't rest until its target was destroyed. Break! Biting on the tip of his tongue, Lu Wujian yelled with an evil look on his face. Who? The sky sword intent poured out, clashing with the destructive sword intent. Although the destructive sword intent was powerful, it was still rootless after all. It could not last for long and was soon removed. Once the destructive sword intent disappeared, the wound on Lu Wujian's neck started to close up and blood stopped pouring out. Everyone was not surprised that Lu Wujian was still alive, since Sea of Souls Realm warriors had a very powerful life force. Cutting off the main artery sounded horrifying, but it would only make the warrior die from blood loss. If the bleeding could be stopped, then the warrior would not die for sure. Yi Chun did not continue to attack. If he really wanted to kill the latter, he would not have waited until now. Yi Chun. With the wound on his neck closed up, Lu Wujian's expression looked extremely cold. Before running into Yi Chun, he had never been defeated before. He had always won with ease. This time, he had even used his 3 sky sword chi, but still lost to Yi Chun. Yi Chun had broken his undefeated record. While he was alarmed, he was also extremely angry and unwilling. Do you still want to fight? Yi Chun's expression was indifferent. Back in White Cloud Restaurant, it was mostly the multicolor-robed woman who provoked him. Therefore, he could remain calm. It was best that Murong Qingsheng had helped him deal with the trouble. Not being angry didn't mean that he would remain indifferent. His counterattack was not something that ordinary people could endure. His attack was like a clap of thunder, leaving the opponent with an unforgettable memory. Umph! Lu Wujian coldly snorted. He naturally wouldn't continue fighting. Not to mention whether he was Yi Chun's opponent or not. He only had 30% of his battle power left. His condition was unprecedentedly low. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. You can be proud for a moment, but not for a lifetime. The path ahead of me is still very long. At that time, I'll make you pay the price. Lu Wujian was already at the peak of late Sea of Soul Realm. He never doubted that he would be unable to step into Half-Step King Realm. Once he did, his strength would increase by several folds. Ordinary Half-Step Kings would not be his opponent, not to mention Yi Chun. After all, Yichin's cultivation base was only at the peak of mid-sea of Soul Realm, far from half-step king realm. Wait until you become a half-step king. Words won't help you improve. Yichin's expression didn't change. By the time his opponent became a half-step king, his cultivation base would also be at the peak of late sea of Soul Realm. Experiencing the state of being one with the world would allow his profound to advance by leaps and bounds, and he might even be able to cultivate Golden Hurricane to greater completion. Although his soul power wouldn't increase after entering late sea of Soul Realm, and thus wouldn't be able to directly increase the offensive power of Sword Control Art, the might of Sword Control Art had only just begun. Later, there would be 5 swords, 7 swords, 9 swords, 49 swords, 81 swords, and even the supreme 100 swords. At that time, even he himself couldn't estimate how much his strength would grow. Let's go. Lu Wujian knew that it was useless to say anything at this moment. A loss was a loss. Only by defeating the opponent in the future could he redeem his dignity. Let's go. Gulai let out a deep breath and fearfully glanced at Yichin before leaving with the multicolor-robed woman, chasing after Lu Wujian. Before leaving, the multicolor-robed woman was somewhat apprehensive, fearing that Yichin would look for trouble with her. This person was too frightening. Once the 3 left, Yichin slightly calmed his blood and chi and recalled the previous battle. Without a doubt, Lu Wujian's strength was extremely astonishing. Without using Sword Control Art, he could only rely on his undying body to suppress his opponent and slowly exhaust him to death. As his cultivation base increased, he increasingly felt the reliability of the undying body. Although the undying body couldn't directly increase his strength, it was much better than directly increasing his strength. Even if his opponent was stronger than him, he wouldn't need to be afraid. If they were to truly fight to the death, the victor and the loser were still unknown. Unfortunately, he still couldn't comprehend the second layer of the undying body, limb regrowth. Once he comprehended it, as long as his head was fine, the rest of his body could rapidly regrow. His survivability would increase tenfold, and even if he encountered an opponent he couldn't match, he would have a high chance of escaping with his life. However, he wasn't anxious. He had a premonition that once he broke through to late sea of Soul Realm, he would have the qualifications to comprehend limb regrowth. In the boundless void, there was no sign of life. At the far end of the void, a colossus was rapidly approaching. From a close distance, this colossus seemed like a small plane. Its periphery was slightly transparent, and one could vaguely see the mountains and rivers inside, as well as the huge building at the center. The small plane's speed was extremely fast, and it was followed by a row of gray chi waves. As the chi waves surged, even the spatial power in the void was pushed aside. Even if a half-step king were careless and brushed by the gray chi waves, they would turn into ashes, leaving not even a corpse behind. According to the direction and speed of the small plane, it would arrive in the sky of Sky Marshall region in about a month. As the small plane approached, the finger hole left behind by 4 Extreme's Great Emperor flickered, seemingly sensing an invisible aura. A subtle connection was established between the two. At the border of North Sea and True Spirit Continent, a figure was rapidly approaching. Wherever it went, it left behind runes condensed from Zhen Yuan, flickering and flickering, looking extremely mysterious. Swish! The figure suddenly stopped moving and stood in the void. This was a young man with a jade-like complexion, sword-like eyebrows, and starry eyes. In between his eyebrows, there was a glazed rune. This rune wasn't just for show. It allowed the young man to have an unfathomable connection with the world, as if he was one with the world. I've arrived at True Spirit Continent. This is my first time here. The young man's gaze swept through the surroundings. The surrounding islands and seawater were no secret to him. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. Courting death. His gaze slightly paused, and the young man sneered. Kill. Hundreds of martial artists flew over from all directions. The lowest realm was at the astral reaching realm, while the highest was at the peak of late sea of Soul Realm. This was a gang force. To be more precise, It was the biggest pirate force at the border between North Ocean and True Spirit Continent. They specialized in killing passing experts and robbing their wealth. Encountering them, even a peak master would have to flee in panic, not daring to face them head-on. Another fat sheep has arrived. The leader of the pirates was an ugly man with a full beard. This month, they had already killed 7 or 8 Sea of Soul Realm experts. The strongest among them was a Sea of Soul Master, who had a bit of fame in the continent. However, if they ran into the Black Murder Bandits, they would only be dead. Kill for me. Without saying any nonsense, the Black Slaughter Bandits waved their hands, ordering their subordinates to attack together and kill the other party. Courting death. A cold light flickered in the young man's eyes. With a slap of his hand, a glazed palm energy condensed into a twisting rune, bombarding the group on the right. Pucci. The might of the palm energy turned into a rune was too powerful. At least 30 to 40 people were turned into flesh and blood, their bodies igniting and turning into ashes. So powerful, the Black Slaughter Bandit's pupils shrank. While he was in a daze, the young man had killed more than 200 Black Slaughter Bandits in succession. As for the Black Slaughter Bandits' attacks, they couldn't even touch his body, as they were all evaded by an unfathomable movement skill. There's a troublesome opponent. Retreat. As the Black Slaughter Bandit spoke, he had already turned around to flee. You think you can escape? With a few flickers, the young man caught up to the Black Slaughter Bandit's back. Extending his palm, he easily shattered the bandit's protective genuine and grabbed his head. Mercy! The Black Slaughter Bandit's face turned pale. Pucci! The young man's 5 fingers tightened. Starting from the bandit's head, a glazed flame ignited and soon turned him into ashes. Chapter 713. Run! When the remaining members of the Black Murder Bandits saw that even their leader had been killed, how could they not understand that this young man was no lamb to be slaughtered? Instead, he was a ferocious beast, a man-eating ferocious beast. Trying to rob and kill him would be akin to courting death. Each and every one of them wished that their parents had given them an extra pair of legs as they fled for their lives. Lowly ants. The young man didn't chase. These people were not worth chasing. Collecting the Black Slaughter Bandit Chief's storage ring, the youngster casually threw it into his own storage ring and looked in the direction of the True Spirit Continent. I've been in the North Sea for a long time, but I've only been to the deep sea behind the North Sea. I wonder if there's anyone on this True Spirit Continent who can withstand 10 moves from me. After standing still for a while, a colorful symbol appeared around the young man's body. The symbol rotated slightly, carrying him as he shot out like a flickering light. Too frightening. As soon as the young man left, 2 Sea of Soul Realm experts appeared 100 li away. They were originally scared, afraid of being attacked by the Black Slaughter Bandits. But who would have thought that they would personally witness the destruction of the Black Slaughter Bandits? And the one who did it was a very young man. This person's strength is world-shaking. I'm afraid he's the strongest below Half-Step King. I don't know where he came from. I've never seen him before. Elysium is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Moreover, we're facing a great era. There are many more geniuses and opportunities than before. Although the 2 of us have already passed the age of rapid growth, it doesn't mean that we don't have any opportunities. On the contrary, this is our chance. You're right. The Great Era is our chance. It had only been a week since the battle in the 9-Dragon Lake, but Yi Chen's name of Sword Master had spread throughout the whole Sky Martial region. Adding on his previous fame, the current Yi Chen was like the sun in the sky. Some of the martial schools even used Yi Chen as a role model for their disciples. Just like before, everyone said that Xianhou was the #1 martial genius in 1,000 years. Right now, Yi Chen seemed to be able to inherit that title. Of course, it was only a trend. As long as Yi Chen did not reach the life and death realm, he would not be able to compete with Xianhou. Since the ancient times, countless martial geniuses had stopped at the Sea of Souls realm and Half-Step King realm. No one could be sure that Yi Chen would be able to become a life and death realm warrior. All they could say was that he had the most potential. Yi Chen was way too powerful, So the pavilion did not have to wait for the next month to announce him as the #1 warrior of this year's Master Level Warrior ranking. Plus, the introduction had already been written out, which would be Swordmaster Yi Chun or something like that. It would be the same as confirming Yi Chen's identity as the Swordmaster, instead of just giving him a title. Adding this year's ranking, Yi Chun had occupied the first rank for 3 consecutive years. His position was as stable as a mountain, unshakable. After renting a luxurious yard in a nearby city, Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng settled in. There were mountains and rivers in the yard, which was very spacious. Beside the green water, Yi Chun was training his defensive sword spell. After battling with Lu Wujian, Yi Chun had revealed his last ace attack, which was almost no secret at all. It was not what he wanted. Right now, the most urgent thing was to train his defensive sword spell's 3-sword attack to the 5-sword attack realm, which would stabilize his ace attack a little bit. Shoo! 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 Above the green water, 3 beams of gold light were flying around. Occasionally, 5 shadows could be seen, which was a sign that the 3-sword attack was about to reach the 5-sword attack realm. Once it reached the 5-sword attack realm, although the pure attacking power would not increase that much, the battling power would increase by at least 5 to 10%. For example, Lu Wujian's 3-sky sword chi was 3 beams of sword chi. If he used 3 sword attacks at the same time, he would not be able to do anything to his opponent. But it would be different with the 5-sword attack realm, which would have 2 more attacks than his opponent. In the end, it was just a matter of quantity and quality. If there was enough quality, then there would be quantity. If there was enough quantity, then there would be quality. Both were very important, and it would be best to have the best of both worlds. However, the Imperial Sword technique was getting more and more difficult to cultivate. Although the 3 simultaneous swords and the 5 simultaneous swords did not seem to have much of a difference, it had already been 2 to 3 months. Furthermore, he had yet to succeed in cultivating it. It would probably take a long time for him to cultivate the 7 simultaneous swords and the 9 simultaneous swords. Of course, if he reached the late Sea of Souls realm, it would be a lot easier. After all, training the defensive sword spell required a lot of comprehension as well as Jinyuan realm. With a high Jinyuan realm, it would be easier to improve. If he reached the life and death realm, he would be able to train 49 sword attacks in one day. Yi Chun believed that. A couple of days passed in a flash, and Yi Chun had new insights every day. He felt that it was getting smoother and smoother, as if everything was going smoothly. Go! Pointing out his sword finger, Yi Chun yelled with a low voice. Chin! 3 beams of gold light shot out. For a split second, they split into 5 beams, but then shrank back into 3. Almost there. Yi Chun was very clear that he did not need to train hard anymore. The 5-sword attack realm was definitely going to happen. Boom! There was an ancient mountain range in the Sky Martial region. On this day, an earth-shattering sound was heard in the sky above the Savage Mountain range. After that, it was followed by lightning, thunder, wind, and fire, as well as hailstones and snowflakes. Do not look down on these strange phenomena. The lightning was not normal lightning, but the void lightning created by the friction of the space power. The windstorm was the void wind, and the fire was the void fire. Meanwhile, the hailstones and snowflakes were also tainted with the void power. All of these powers could turn a huge amount of half-step king warriors into ashes. Normal life and death realm warriors would also suffer from serious internal injuries if they were hit by it, which would cost their cultivation. Along with the appearance of the strange phenomenon, a huge vibration spread out in all directions with the Sky Martial region as the center. The sky, the lake, and the ground were all channels for the vibration. It would be hard not to feel it. The speed of the vibration could no longer be described as the speed of sound. It could travel hundreds of thousands of miles within a second, and the ground was shaking like there was an earthquake. What is happening? What is happening? Earthquake. All of a sudden, every city, every town, every village, every lone traveler in the wild, and every powerful warrior who was training in seclusion, everyone could feel that the ground was shaking violently, and the air was vibrating intensely. Waves of wind were blowing everywhere. This vibration is not normal. A powerful warrior walked out of his seclusion and came outside. He closed his eyes and tried to sense the source of the vibration. But he realized that the source was very far away, and he could not sense it at all. Mysterious martial school. Beside the floating mountain, a young lady lifted up her head and looked in the direction of the mountain range. Her eyes seemed to be able to see through layers of surreal space and see the end of the world. Looking back, the young lady reached out her hand and caught a strand of space power. She sensed it carefully and mumbled to herself, "This is the violent space power caused by a small plane crashing into the space wall. It should be a moving, forbidden place appearing. Oh well, I will send Feng to check it out first." Inside the surreal door, in the depths of the surreal palace, a middle-aged man wearing luxurious clothes and a golden crown opened his eyes. His eyes seemed to contain pieces of surreal space, devouring the heaven and earth. A horrifying scene happened. His pupils slightly shrank, and the surreal space of this world suddenly shrunk. The scenery hundreds of thousands of li away flashed through his eyes. 1,000,000 li, 2,000,000 li, 9,000,000 li. The situation of the savage mountain range fell into his eyes. The forbidden place has appeared. This strand of chi is the Emperor Chi of Four Extremes Emperor. Four Extremes Emperor was famous throughout the ages. His Emperor Chi was unique and could not be mistaken. Zun Er's fortune is here. Those old guys should show up now, right? His pupils returning to normal, the luxuriously clothed man's eyes flickered as if he was calculating something. Something that could make him calculate was definitely not something a Sea of Souls realm warrior could stop. Only kings of the same realm could stop him. Evil King Pavilion, back-mount an ancient temple. A young man with long and narrow eyebrows walked out. Haha, I haven't fought for dozens of years. I wonder how much those guys have improved. Yin, Qin Xian, you won against me last time, but it might not be the same this time. As the young man walked out, the plants around the ancient temple started to grow strangely. They were filled with evil qi, as if they had turned into monsters. At the end of the eastern sea, there was a space full of holes. Some were big, some were small, some were flat, and some were round. They were constantly changing, and from time to time, a horrifying surreal turbulence would shoot out, as if a huge piece of cheese had been imprinted in the surreal space. In the depths of the space, a white-haired old man sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. There was no sign of him waking up. However, the death chi on his body was gradually decreasing, and his vitality was increasing. He no longer looked like a rotten tree, but an old tree in the spring. At the same time, all the kings in the Sky Martial region felt it. Their eyes flickered as they calculated with different expressions. As for the kings outside the Sky Martial region, they did not feel anything. 5 swords at the same time. Ichin had felt a huge shock a couple of days ago as well. However, he was patient and did not pay attention to it. Right now, the most important thing was to train the defensive sword spell to the level of 5 swords at the same time. Everything else was secondary. Chin, Yi Chun pointed out with his right hand, and the gold sword turned into a beam of golden light shooting out of its scabbard. The sword chi was unstoppable, and the surreal space shook a little. The gold sword split into 3 and paused for a second. Then, the Jin Yuan gold swords on the 2 sides also split into 2. 5 swords at the same time. Yichin had finally trained it to the level of 5 swords at the same time. Although it was still a bit rough, he had succeeded in the end. Go! He pointed out with his finger, and the 5 beams of golden light pierced through the broken-top rank shield in front of him, leaving 5 sword holes on it with smoke rising out of it. It was not over yet. Under the guidance of Yi Chen's soul power, the 5 beams of golden light spread out, dancing and piercing in the air. Each of the swords looked like they were controlled by a powerful sword user. It was impossible to tell that they were made by one person at all, which was quite shocking. Come back. The 5 swords merged into one, and the gold sword was inserted back into the scabbard on Yi Chen's back. I have trained the 5 sword at the same time. I wonder what Murong Qingqing has found out. The shock was not normal. Yicha did not go out to ask for information, but Murong Qingsheng did. Chapter 714. Right at the edge of the Sky Martial region, there was a rank 6 martial institution called the Red Cloud Martial School. The leader of the school was a famous master level C of Soul's Realm warrior. His red cloud palm art was extremely hot and brutal. Normal C of Soul's Realm warriors would be burned into ashes after taking one palm attack from him. A couple of days ago, a huge vibration was heard from the deep end of the Savage Mountains. He made a quick decision and sent out a third of the elite warriors to search for the source of the vibration. He himself did not stay idle either. He gathered half of the powerful warriors in the school and gave each of them valuable pellets and a couple of thunderfire bombs. Once the news arrived, they would leave immediately. Leader, outside the Crimson Firmament Hall, a person hurriedly walked in. How is it? What news? Master Red Cloud's eyes shone brightly. It was the master he had sent out to search for the source of the vibration. Sect Master, our Scarlet Firmament Gate's luck has come. In the depths of the Savage Mountain Range, there is a huge moving forbidden area. The moving forbidden area collided with the spatial barrier and stopped, revealing a gap. The heaven and earth Yuan Qi inside is incomparably dense, and there are spirit herbs and spirit trees everywhere. There are spiritual herbs and spiritual trees everywhere. Master Red Cloud gasped. The moving forbidden place was huge. Obviously, the spirit plants and trees were just side effects, but it was still shocking enough. Good. Luck has come, and you can't stop it. You take us to the source of the vibration. Once it is done, we will try our best to help you reach Late Sea of Soul's Realm. You will be rewarded as well. Yes. Thank you, leader. The man looked excited. He had been stuck at peak level mid-sea of Soul's Realm for decades. He had been affected by his potential and comprehensive ability. If he wanted to reach Late Sea of Soul's Realm, it would take him at least a few decades of hard work. But with the full support of the Red Cloud Martial School, it would not be hard for him to reach Late Sea of Soul's Realm. The Savage Mountain Range was not big, and it could not be compared to the Savage Mountain Range of the Northern Sector. It was only a small part of the primordial Savage Mountain Range, but the experts of the Scarlet Heaven sect still spent 3 days to reach the depths of the Savage Mountain Range. Raising their heads, everyone saw a shocking scene. Unbeknownst to them, a huge gap had appeared in the sky several hundred meters above them. This gap was polygonal in shape, with the widest part being over 100 meters and the narrowest part being 7 to 8 meters. The edges of the gap were filled with cracks, imprinted in the air. Below the gap was a huge pit that stretched for an unknown distance, and at the edge of the pit were cracked crystals of various colors. Looking into the gap, Master Qi Zhao's breathing suddenly became rapid. Rich natural energy was constantly gushing out from the gap. Inside the gap, different kinds of spirit grasses were growing everywhere. Every few meters, there would be a towering tree. These towering trees were shining brightly, and the fruits on the branches were surrounded by colorful airflows. It wasn't hard to imagine what kind of energy these fruit trees contained. Low grade, middle grade, they are everywhere. There must be high-grade spirit herbs and spirit trees in the deeper parts. This is the fortune of our Crimson Firmament clan. Master Qi Shao laughed out loud. Not to mention the treasures inside the moving forbidden place. Just these spirit herbs and spirit trees will be able to increase the overall power of the Crimson Firmament Martial School to another level. Those spirit herbs could be planted in the medicine garden, and the spirit trees will be able to bear fruits every few years. It would definitely be a huge fortune. Everyone, don't act recklessly. Let me try it out. Master Qi Shao was the leader of the martial school after all, so he did not let the wealth go to his head. He took out a low-rank great weapon from his storage ring and threw it into the gap. Shoo! The low-rank great weapon turned into a beam of light and smoothly entered the gap. Leader, there is no danger. The master next to him said happily. Master Qi Shao said, no rush, let's try again. He threw out another low-rank great weapon, but it barely touched the edge of the gap. Swoosh! A crystal-clear thunder light flashed through, and the low-rank great weapon turned into ashes. Taking a deep breath, Master Qi Shao said emotionally, "Everyone follow me in. Remember, don't go near the edge of the gap. Try to go in from the center." Obviously, the energy around the gap was too concentrated. Once something approached, it would sense it and destroy it. "Let's go." Master Qi Shao took the lead and flew into the gap. The protective Zhenyuan around his body was a fiery red, like a red crystal protective layer. The others followed closely behind. Although he knew that there was no danger in the center of the gap, Master Qi Shao was still very careful. His protective Zhenyuan had protected him perfectly. The 1,000 meters distance was covered within a second, and he was about to enter through the gap. Right at this moment, boom, boom, the gap, which had no reaction before, started to shake violently. Beams of crystal-clear lightning, flames, and tornadoes shot out from the edge of the gap, interweaving into a perfect fire net. All of the people from the Red Cloud Martial School were caught in the net. "Back out!" Master Qi Zhao's face turned pale as he yelled. Unfortunately, it was too late. The fire net had turned all of the powerful warriors he had brought into ashes, and even he puked out a few mouthfuls of blood. Bastard! Master Qi Zhao's eyes were bloodshot. Those were half of the powerful warriors from the Red Cloud Martial School, but they had all been turned into ashes within a second. After this battle, the Red Cloud Martial School's power had shrunk by half, turning from a top-rank 6 martial school to a mid-rank 6 martial school. And this was only because of him. Boom! Boom! Lightning, fire, and tornadoes landed on his protective Zhenyuan, making him look like he had been struck by lightning. Blood started to flow out of all of his orifices. "No, I cannot die. As long as I do not die and find enough treasures in the Forbidden Place, the Red Cloud Martial School will be able to continue to grow. I might even be able to become a half-step king warrior. By then, the Red Cloud Martial School will be even more powerful than right now." Suppressing his pain, he did not back out. Instead, he moved forward and was about to enter the gap. Boom! A pile of crystal-clear fireball landed on his body, burning him into ashes immediately. The broken top-rank weapon and storage ring were sucked into the crack on the edge of the gap, disappearing without a trace. All of the powerful warriors from the Red Cloud Martial School had been killed. A couple of days later, the second group of guests arrived at the Savage Mountains. There were only 5 people in the second group: 1 young man, 3 middle-aged men, and 1 elder. The young man was wearing gold robes and a gold crown, looking extremely aggressive. He was indeed the head disciple of the Serene Martial School, Xiaohozuan. The 3 middle-aged men were all Master-level C of Soul's Realm warriors. One of them was the headmaster of the school, the Axe Master. The last elder in yellow robes seemed to be the leader of the 5. He had a powerful body and was as steady as a mountain. "Great Master, should we go in?" One of the 3 middle-aged men said to the elder in yellow, looking very respectful. "This gap is not simple. The edge of the gap contains the surreal power, which can explode with surreal lightning, fire, and wind. If the defense is not strong enough, going in will only lead to death. You guys follow me closely. If anything goes wrong, retreat immediately." The elder in yellow was one of the great masters of the school at the half-step king warrior level. His power was unpredictable, and he was the leader of this operation. "Let's go in then." Xiaohozuan's eyes shone with a bright light. The grave of the 4 extreme emperor was his fortune, and it was also the key for him to reach the half-step king warrior level earlier. "All right, let's go in." The elder in yellow was not afraid of the surreal power at all. With a flash, he flew toward the gap. The 4 followed behind him. Boom! Boom! As expected, the sparkling and translucent lightning, flames, and storms sensed a powerful source of energy approaching and immediately erupted with dazzling radiance. Among the 3 middle-aged men, the one who spoke earlier had the lowest defense. He was immediately burned into ashes by a fireball and a lightning bolt. "Don't mind him. Go in." The elder in yellow did not have it easy. The surreal power would increase according to the individual's power. Although it would not surpass his own power, it was still not easy to bear. He had to defend with all his heart and couldn't care less about the people behind him. Shoo! The remaining 4 smoothly entered the gap. Strangely, looking from the outside, there were no 4 people inside the gap. Not long after the 4 left, another group of people arrived. Unfortunately, the strongest among them was only a Master Level C of Soul's Realm Warrior. They were killed by the surreal power before they could even get close. Soon after, more people arrived, but they were all killed one after another. Those who could successfully enter the gap were few and far between. The next morning, 2 figures appeared on the opposite hill. Their aura was deep and immeasurable. As they blinked, the space around them slightly twisted. They were clearly 2 genuine half-step kings. Ghostwood King, this time, the tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared. There will be a lot of half-step kings here. Later on, there will be even more life and death kings. If you and I want to make a fortune, we have to do it now. The one who spoke was a short, dark-skinned elder. He looked like a midget with a pointy mouth. In front of him was a middle-aged man with a wooden face. His skin was not like a human's, but more like a tree's. Go for king. You like to take advantage of others. If you take advantage of me again, I'll break your legs. The middle-aged man said indifferently. The midget elder chuckled. No, not this time. The tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has so many treasures. Why would I want to take advantage of others? Let's go. I hope you're telling the truth. In a courtyard deep in the mountains of Sky Marshal region, a youngster with a crystal symbol on his head arrived. Old Fong Tian greets you. The youngster's voice spread out. Soon, the courtyard's gate creaked open. It's Tian. The one who came out was a skinny old man with long hair and fluttering clothes. When he saw the young man, a smile appeared on his face. The youngster said, The tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared. Master has asked me to go with you. The tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared. Could that vibration be the sign of its appearance? The skinny elder thought about the vibration a few days ago. All right, you and I will go together. Nodding his head, the skinny elder casually closed the door of the courtyard and walked out. Walking side by side with the young man, they flew towards the origin of the tremors, the direction of the Savage Mountain Range. Chapter 7:15. Meanwhile, the mysterious Martial School, Hell Martial School, Evil King School, and the other top-rank 5 martial schools had all sent their people to the Savage Mountains. The mysterious Martial School was a new school. Before Xianhou became a life and death realm warrior, it was only a rank 6 martial school, which was not as powerful as the other rank 5 martial schools. They did not have that many half-step king warriors and top master level warriors. Therefore, including Yin Feng, there were only 3 of them. Feng, you said that Yi Chun has the power of a half-step king warrior? The one who spoke was a middle-aged lady who looked like she was in her 40s. Her chi was deep like the ocean, impossible to see through. Even when he tried to sense it with his soul power, it was like a whirlpool. Yin Feng nodded. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. The middle-aged lady was the great master of the mysterious martial school, Qing Lu. She was also a half-step king warrior herself, and she had a very high status. She used to be the leader of the mysterious martial school and Xuanhou's teacher. After Xianhou became a life and death realm warrior, she gave up her position to Xianhou while she became the great master herself. Hearing her, Qing Lu thought about it and said, We do not have a lot of people. We can invite him in. Although she was a half-step king warrior, if they ran into people from other parties, she might not be able to make it out, since she was not the only half-step king warrior. All right, Yin Feng thought about it, then nodded. In the past couple of days, Murong Qingsheng did not get any news, since the source of the vibration was too far away from the city they were living in. The two were not in a hurry either, since the Sky Martial region was only this big. They would probably get some news in a couple of days. Yicheng used this opportunity to continue training his 5 sword attacks, trying to reach the level where he could use them as he wished. On this day, Yin Feng and Qing Lu arrived at the city Yicheng was living in. Inside the yard, the 5 sat in the pavilion in the middle of the green water. Yicheng greets Senior Qing Lu. After knowing Qing Lu's identity, Yicheng was a bit surprised. He had not expected that this person would be Xuanhou's teacher. the former leader of the mysterious martial school. Qing Lu laughed. Don't be shy. Qing Xin thinks highly of you. She said that you are the one with the most hope to reach life and death realm within 5 years. 5 years? Senior Yin overestimates Yi Chun. Yi Chun forced a smile. Although he firmly believed that he would be able to reach the life and death realm, he did not have the confidence to do so within 5 years. Qing Lu said, "Don't look down on Qing Xian's words. Her words will most likely come true. I have seen it many times." "Thank you for your auspicious words, Senior Yin." Yi Chun smiled. After taking a sip of the tea, Qing Lu asked, "Yi Chun, what rank is your sword intent?" "Feng, or said that you have the destruction sword intent. Is it true?" Yi Chun said, "That's right. It's the 5th step destruction sword intent." Although she had already heard about Yi Chun's situation from Yin Fo Feng, but hearing it from Yi Chun himself, Qing Lu was still very surprised. Rank 5 sword intent, and it was the destruction sword intent. Its power was equivalent to a normal rank 6 sword intent. It was a level that even most of the life and death realm warriors could not reach. Indeed, the younger generation will surpass the older generation. Qing Xin is one, and so are you. Qing Lu sighed. Yi Chun asked, "Senior Qing Lu, what are you here for?" Yin Feng Feng answered for Qing Lu, "Yi Chun, do you know what is the source of that vibration? I am trying to find some information." "What is it?" "The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor has appeared. The vibration was caused by the moving forbidden place hitting the space wall. Right now, all of the rank 5 martial institutions in the Sky Martial region should know about it. The others will come a bit later. My teacher and I are here to explore the tomb. Therefore, we would like to invite you and Murong to join us. What do you think?" The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor? Ichi did not think too much as he nodded. All right. He had the 3rd movement of the void-shattering finger art, as well as a white key from the Aries constellation. The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor was his fortune, so naturally, he would not let it go. Even if Senior Qing Lu and Yin Feng Feng did not come to find him, after a while, he would still go. Qing Lu said, "This time, the trip to the tomb will be very dangerous. There will be a lot of half-step king warriors joining us. Although some of them might not be able to reach the life and death realm in their lifetime, their power is unpredictable. Therefore, they are always in closed-door training. Therefore, their lives might be in danger." "I know." Yi Chun nodded. He was not that far away from the late seas of Soul's realm. It was just that there seemed to be a layer between them that he could not break through. With this opportunity, he might be able to make it. Once he reached the late seas of Soul's realm, even if he ran into a half-step king warrior, he would be able to escape unscathed. As for the weaker half-step king warriors, it would be hard to tell who would win. "Murong, what about you?" Yi Chun was a bit worried about Murong Qingcheng. "I will go with you," Murong Qingcheng replied. "All right then." Although Yi Chun was afraid that Murong Qingcheng might be in danger, he knew that Murong Qingcheng's survival ability was not weaker than anyone else's. Not only did she have the perfect demi-demon bloodline and demon power, there was also a lot of demon power essence from the Demon King inside her body. With Murong Qingcheng's endurance right now, once she used it, it would be even more powerful than before. Just like that, the 5 of them headed toward the Savage Mountains. Before, Qing Lu and Yin Feng Feng were not that powerful. But with Yi Chun and Murong Qingcheng, they had become a whole new level stronger. Yin Feng Feng was one of the top 5 warriors in the master-level warrior ranking, and Murong Qingcheng's demon power chi was very powerful as well. Adding Yi Chun, who was invincible below the half-step king warrior realm, they would not be weaker than any group of warriors, unless there were 2 half-step king warriors. When they reached the deep end of the Savage Mountains, it was already a week later. "Haha, mysterious king, you are here as well." In the distance, 7 human figures flew over. Their chi carried a hint of evil chi, giving people a feeling of being both righteous and evil. "Gold Absolute King, if you can come, why can't I?" Qing Lu's title was Mysterious King. All of the half-step king warriors were backup life and death realm warriors, so they could be called kings. And the one she called Gold Absolute King was the great master of the Evil King Martial School, the Evil King's teacher uncle. His power was unpredictable. and he used to be her old rival. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The gold absolute king landed on a mountain not far away. He studied Qing Lu and the people next to her, then laughed. 5 of you? Not bad. I thought there were only 3 or 4 of you. Having more people is not always a good thing. What matters is quality, not quantity, Qing Lu said with a smile. Haha, there's no use in talking. My evil king martial school has always been more powerful than your mysterious martial school. Talking about elites, we have more of them. The gold absolute king had not come out for a long time, and no one had mentioned Yi Chun to him. Therefore, he did not know about Yi Chun and what he had done. Right next to the gold absolute king were 6 people. 2 young people, 2 middle-aged people, and 2 old people. Among the 2 young people, Yi Chun actually knew one of them. It was none other than Si Kong Sheng, who had not shown up for a long time. Right now, Si Kong Sheng had a blank expression on his face. He did not have that arrogant temperament that he used to have. However, with Yi Chun's eyesight, he could naturally tell that when Si Kong Sheng saw him, his eyes flickered a little, but strangely, he did not show any expression. For Si Kong Sheng to be called here, his power must have reached the top master level. I wonder how he made it this far. It was not that Yi Chun was looking down on Si Kong Sheng. It could only be said that after seeing so many martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region, Yi Chun had already become numb. With Si Kong Sheng's talent, he might not even be in the top 10. Therefore, the fact that he had the top master level power had surprised him. Right next to Si Kong Sheng was a young man with embroidery on his face. He looked to be around 25 or 26 years old. He was not as expressionless as Si Kong Sheng. Instead, he was curiously checking out Yi Chun, giving people a kind of frivolous and carefree look. That might not be the case. Things are different now. We will go first. Qing Lu did not plan to argue with the gold absolute king anymore. She flew towards the gap in the air first. Yi Chun and the other 3 followed right behind her. Rumble. The surreal power at the edge of the gap had sensed a powerful individual power approaching. Beams of surreal lightning, surreal fire, and surreal wind rushed out, attacking the 5. Before this, Qing Lu had already warned the other 3 to be careful of the surreal power. Therefore, the 4 behind her did not panic. They all pushed their protective Zhen Yuan to the limit and increased their speed instead of slowing down. Be careful. Yi Chun's body flashed once, appearing on the right side of Murong Qingqing. The attacks around here were very intense. Murong Qingqing's face was a bit pale as she said, I am fine. Although her protective demon power was very powerful, way more powerful than normal peak-level late seas of Soul's Realm warriors, she did not have a semi-extreme rank armor after all. So, it would not be easy for her to handle the surreal power. The good thing was that she still had the darkness sky cover. The dark profound had a great effect on absorbing the surreal power. As for Yi Chun, his cultivation was not that high, only at peak level mid-seas of Soul's Realm. But he had the semi-extreme rank armor, the dragon bone defense layer, and the undying body. So, it would be a lot easier for him to handle the surreal power attacks. On the other hand, Yin Fengfeng's real body was a blue phoenix, which was the top of the top rank. Within these 2 years, she had already reached rank 10 from rank 9, which made her one of the most powerful rank 10 beasts. Her body was extremely powerful, and her protective beast power was not any weaker than Murong Qingqing's protective demon power. Besides that, she had also gotten a semi-extreme rank armor from the Treasure Holy Tower, which made her even more powerful. The most difficult one would be Lin Gaoming, the leader of the mysterious peak, who was not weak at all. He was also at peak level late seas of Soul's Realm. Unfortunately, he did not have a semi-extreme rank armor as well, so he could only use his rich Zhen Yuan to hold on. Blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. Within a blink of an eye, the 5 had been attacked dozens of times. They managed to enter the gap with difficulty and disappeared without a single death. Wow, no wonder they are so arrogant. The Gold Absolute King wanted to see a joke, but he did not get to see it. Gold Absolute King, these years, the mysterious martial school has been catching up with your evil king martial school. It is natural for them to be arrogant. Another group of people arrived from a distance. This group of people were all wearing black robes. 5 of them had a huge prison word written on their chests. Although the other one did not have it, it was written on his sleeve. He was from the Hell Martial School. The power of the Hell Martial School was even more powerful than the Evil King Martial School. The leader of the school was also a king warrior from the same generation as Su King. His cultivation was comparable to the old Dragon King. The Hell King had inherited Jailer's legacy and was good at sealing. His most powerful martial art was the Sky Hell sealing great art, which was extremely horrifying. Mu Yunha, who had been with Lin Tian and had a conflict with Yichun before, was indeed the head disciple of the Hell Martial School. However, he was not among the 6. Punishment King, long time no see. The Gold Absolute King squeezed his eyes. The mysterious King Qing Lu's power was indeed unpredictable. However, compared to the Punishment King, he was more afraid of him. He was an executioner who had mastered a part of the Hell Martial School's sealing art. Fighting against him, even if he won, he would be severely injured. It has been a long time indeed, but now is not the time to talk nonsense. My Hell Martial School will go in first. You people from the Evil King Martial School, you better not run into us, and you better not fight with us for anything. Otherwise, I will let you taste my punishment. Who will be the unlucky one? The Gold Absolute King was not someone who would be scared easily, so he said without hesitation, see you in the forbidden place. The Punishment King laughed out loud and entered the gap. Along the way, one of them puked out blood due to severe injuries. Unfortunately, he did not die. Let's go in as well. The Gold Absolute King led his people into the gap as well. Chapter 716. Outside the gap, Yi Chun and the other 4 could see what was inside. There were spirit plants everywhere, and spirit trees were all over the place. But after entering, they realized that the place they were in had nothing to do with what they were seeing. It was obvious that those sceneries were refracted from the space, and they did not know where they were in the forbidden place. This place was a boundless plain. Strong gales whistled through the air, creating a sharp, piercing sound. Be careful. We are already inside the spell. Qing Lu was very knowledgeable, so she could tell with one glance that there was a massive spell covering the whole plain, and there were a lot of smaller spells within it. Because of the high level of the spell, it had already merged with the nature. Without great eyesight and knowledge, one would not be able to tell. This should be a mimicry spell. Yi Chun nodded. You know. Qing Lu looked at Yi Chun with surprise. The fact that Yi Chun knew about the spell had already surprised her a lot. But he not only knew about the spell, he even knew what kind of spell it was. There were a lot of spells, and one of them was the mimicry spell. It could use the power of the spell to mimic all kinds of living beings, such as humans, beasts, or some other weird living beings. The power of these simulated living beings would be related to the rank of the spell. The higher the rank of the spell, the more powerful they would be. The more powerful the spell could even mimic living beings with the power of a life and death realm warrior and kill them. I know a little, Yi Chun said vaguely. His soul power was 5 times more powerful than normal people, and its quality was equivalent to the soul power of a life and death realm warrior. Naturally, he could tell if there was a spell on the plane. As for being able to tell the type of the spell, it was because of the spell knowledge that the Battle King had imprinted in his brain. He only needed to sense a little bit to know that it was a mimicry spell. All right, let's go. Qing Lu put away her surprise and said to the 4. Yes, teacher. Yin Fengfeng was not surprised at all, since Yi Chun had a lot of secrets. After walking for a while, the 5 saw a gray-white stone tablet. There were 4 big words written on it, Gray Wolf Plain. Qing Lu said, if I have guessed it right, this should be the Gray Wolf spell set up by the 4 extreme emperors Gray Wolf King. What it mimics is a demonic wolf. Everyone, please be careful. After walking for a while, the wind on the plain was getting stronger and stronger. Howl! In the distance, 7 gigantic greenish-gray wolves, each the size of an adult elephant, ran over. These gigantic wolves had extremely long fur, and when the wind blew, it looked like greenish-gray flames were burning. Their eyes were ferocious and cruel, and they flickered with a blood-red light. The first one to jump over was the wolf on the left. It threw out a claw attack, and the green-gray claw light covered all 5 of them. Its battling power was not weaker than normal Sea of Souls Realm Master level warriors. Dying, Qing Lu ignored it. She waved her right hand and threw out a palm attack. That condensed palm power was like crystal sweeping across the ground. Including the other wolves, all of them were shattered by that horrifying palm power. On the ground, there was a deep plow mark. Half-Step King Warrior Jin Yuan was indeed horrifying. Yichen finally knew the power of the Half-Step King Warrior. Not to mention the others, just their Jin Yuan alone was already something that peak-level late Seas of Souls Realm Warriors could not compete with. It could already be solidified, and the density of the Jin Yuan had increased by more than 5 times. Besides that, Yi Chun realized that the space inside the Forbidden Place was more than 10 times more stable than the space outside. Normally, the attacks from Master-level Sea of Souls Realm Warriors would be able to twist the space. But inside the Forbidden Place, even Qing Lu, who was a Half-Step King Warrior, could not move the space at all. Qing Lu had also sensed the stability of the space, so she frowned slightly. The 5 of them flew in the sky at a moderate speed. Before those wolves could even get close, they had already been shattered by Qing Lu, who was a Half-Step King Warrior. However, it was very obvious that the power of the Ash Wolf formation had just begun to show. At the end of the horizon, densely packed black shadows were moving over like a black tide. When they got closer, they realized that they were all huge Ash Wolves. With a rough glance, the number of Ash Wolves that were running over was at least 800, if not 1,000. The surging demonic energy caused the sky above the Ash Wolf plains to be pitch black. One wouldn't be able to see their fingers in front of them. Only pairs of red eyes could be seen, as though they were vengeful ghosts. Everyone be careful. Try not to get separated. Right then, Qing Lu did not dare to be careless anymore. These wolves that were made with the power of the spell did not have long-range attacking power. It seemed like they could only fight in close combat. However, there were almost 1,000 Sea of Souls Realm Master level wolves jumping over, so no one dared to be careless. Mysterious Sky Spell. The wolves could not attack from a distance, but Qing Lu could. She formed a spell with both of her hands, and a shocking Jin Yuan vibration spread out from her hands. Go! After forming the spell, Qing Lu pushed both of her hands toward the wolf pack. Pap! There was no earth-shattering sound, but a weird palm print appeared in the middle of the moving wolf pack. It covered hundreds of meters in radius, and at least dozens of wolves had been killed by it. With one attack, she had killed dozens of Master-level Sea of Souls Realm Wolves. She must be one of the top warriors among the Half-Step King Warriors. Major Phoenix Cut, Burning Sky Fist. Yin Feng Feng and the leader of the mysterious mountain Lin Gaoming had also thrown out their attacks. They had both killed 7 to 8 wolves, which was not even 1/3 of what Qing Lu had done. Then, Murong Qingcheng used her Dark Devour to devour 6 to 7 wolves. This attack of hers was still far from completion, but judging on group killing power, it was already not that much weaker than Yin Feng Feng and Lin Gaoming's. Once it reached completion, its power would not be underestimated. Thunder Devour. Yi Chun used his Jin Yuan to form a huge black thunderball. He shot out, exploding in the middle of the wolf pack. The crazy thunder devoured their bodies, killing more than 20 wolves within a second as he chased after Qing Lu. She is indeed the unbeatable being below the Half-Step King Warrior level. Qing Lu glanced at Yi Chun, feeling very surprised. The wolves were running at a very fast speed. After 2 rounds of attacks, they had arrived in front of them, surrounding the 5 of them. A woo! A woo! A shrill wolf howl was heard as all of the wolves started to attack the 5 of them. That powerful claw light filled the sky. Kill! There were still 7 to 8 white-headed wolves left. Qing Lu took the lead and threw out her ace attack. Wherever she went, the wolves would be shattered one after another. She was unstoppable. Yi Chun and the other 3 formed a circle and charged into the wolf pack. After all, 2 fists would not be able to fight against 4 hands, not to mention 700 to 800 wolves. Even so, there were just too many wolves, and all of them were at Master-level Sea of Souls Realm. It would be impossible to avoid all of the attacks. Not to mention the 4 of them. Even Qing Lu had been attacked by the wolves from time to time. It was just that her protective Jin Yuan was way too powerful, and those wolves' attacks had been blown away instead, landing on other wolves. Boom! Yichen had already been attacked dozens of times. His protective Jin Yuan was shaking, making a cracking sound. The other three were even worse, their faces starting to turn pale. No, there are just too many of them. If this continues, even if we can kill them all, we would be wounded as well, which would not be good for the future. With that thought in mind, Yichen did not plan to hold back anymore. 3 sword attack. Pointing out his sword finger, the gold sword on Yichen's back took out of its scabbard. It split into 3, turning into 3 beams of gold light and shooting out like lightning. Pooh! 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 It was like cutting rice straws as the wolves fell down one after another. Before, Yichen's kill count was only 2/3 of Qing Lu's, but right now, it was already above her. It did not mean that his power was already more powerful than her. It was just that the defensive sword spell was too powerful. It was not like the normal attacks, where he would have to pause for a second after each attack. However, the defensive sword spell was completely controlled by soul power, and there was no pause at all. Wherever it went, it would be more horrifying than a lawnmower. This is the defensive sword spell. Qing Lu's pupils shrunk. With such a huge movement, it was impossible for her not to notice it. Yichen's killing speed was unimaginable. A normal defensive sword spell would not be this powerful. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that Yichen must be a soul warrior. The defensive sword spell's power would increase exponentially in his hands. 500, 300, 100. Soon, there were only less than 100 wolves left out of the 800. The density of the wolves had decreased a lot, and the pressure on Murong, Qingsheng, and the other 2 had decreased a lot as well. Landing print. Qing Lu once again formed a spell. In the midair, 100-meter square crystal palm print appeared, smashing down at an extreme speed. The second it landed on the ground around it started to shake. A circular shock wave spread out in all directions. Out of the less than 100 wolves, half of them were killed. The rest of the wolves were much easier to deal with, as they were all shattered. Waiting until all the wolves had been killed, Qing Lu let out a breath and said to Yichen with a smile, "With your power, you will be able to threaten even normal half-step king warriors. This trip to the graveyard, perhaps you would be the key." Facing a powerful enemy, Qing Lu would definitely be stalled by the demi-king warriors and would not be able to take care of them. But with Yichen there, it would be much easier. Basically, no one below the demi-king warrior would be his opponent. And normal demi-king warriors, Yichen would be able to use his defensive sword spell to fight with them. "I will try my best." Yichen nodded. Then, the 5 of them continued to move forward. In front of the gray wolf plain was a lava land. The whole world was red, and there would be hot lava shooting out from time to time, burning the sky red. Caw, caw, caw. In the sky, horrifying bird cries were heard. Countless massive firebirds jumped toward the skinny elder and the young man with the colored symbol on his forehead. Their faces were slightly flushed. Although it was not dangerous, it was not easy either. These firebirds were stronger than the wolves on the Tsanglang plain. Their speed was also faster than the wolves. When they swooped down, they were even faster than lightning. If it were not for their tyrannical strength, they would have already fallen here. 5 symbol palm. The young man's body was surrounded by the colored symbol, blocking out the firebird's attacks. Meanwhile, he himself pushed his Jun Yuan and threw out a palm attack. Pap, pap, pap. 5 twisted symbols were thrown out into midair. Those firebirds were hit by the symbols, and their bodies were shattered into pieces. Then, they were covered by the colored flame and burned into ashes. The young man's colored flame was way more powerful than the firebirds. Windtooth. The thin old man was much stronger than the young man. He waved his hand, and a violent storm appeared out of nowhere. It rolled into a ball, and from time to time, crescent moon-like wind blades would burst out from the storm and sweep across the sky. They swept down a large number of firebirds and cleared the sky.